Let's talk about Impact.
That's Monday Nitro.
I'm sorry, Nitro.
This is a fascinating...
Haven't we suffered enough?
This is the best thing we watched.
Absolutely.
It was also, in a lot of ways, the weirdest thing we watched.
Right.
In what way?
It was in a fucking mall.
Well, there was. That's the first thing I wrote down here. It's at the mall.
So, a couple of notes. It is, of course, the very first episode of Nitro, September 4th, 1995. For some reason, on the network, at least in the Xbox version, it's labeled as Nitro 79. I don't know.
I don't know why either. So,
I had forgotten how weird the opening for Nitro was. It never really changed. It was a dark street with images of wrestlers shown on building facades, and then just random explosions.
Right.
You know what's funny about that episode number 79? I'm watching on the
Apple TV.
Apple TV, and they've got like shows and specials, and then they've got what to watch. And what to watch just said Nitro 79. I was like, what? Why is it 79?
I don't know.
Now, to be fair, one thing that I noticed about this was people have this false impression of what Nitro was. Like it just sprung up out of the ether, like life itself. When in reality, what it really was kind of an offshoot of WCW Saturday Night. They'd had a Saturday night show which actually did better ratings than Raw. And so they essentially, I mean, they added Nitro and everything like that. But it's not like there was it wasn't like they didn't have television or they didn't have a television show that a lot of people watched. I mean, they had a show with a big audience. They put it on here on Monday nights. It was at the mall. But for some reason, I don't know why, but if you remove the mullets, it looked very modern. I don't even know why. Maybe it was because there was the Pillman match. Maybe because Ric Flair, Sting, and Hulk Hogan were all over it, and we still see them today.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it seemed more modern than Impact, actually.
It was a almost 20-year-old show.
Hey, almost exactly 19 years ago, everybody.
Yeah, that held up very well, honestly.
19 years and one day ago.
So they were at a mall. I was hoping we'd get shots of guys in the mall shopping for their gear. I don't know if...
I did see Samito in the crowd with a bag.
If, like, Randy Savage had gone to Hot Topic, that'd have been a great skit. Was Hot Topic around in 1995?
I shopped there, so...
Yeah. They had exterior shots of the mall. I really hope this was, like, stock footage. But it's WCW, so they very well may have hired a helicopter to fly around and shoot the outside of the mall.
I'll bet they did, actually.
Yes. The announcers were Eric Bischoff and in his announcing debut, Steve McMichael.
The worst announcer I have ever heard.
Mongo
was...
I was so annoyed with this man by the end of the show.
He was terrible.
He immediately comes out and starts calling him Bobby the Stain Heenan.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I hated him.
I like it when he said the mall was apropos for a wrestling show.
Yeah.
What does
In
that
what
mean? Because people are there?
Sure. It's all very commercial. I don't know. We'll get to McMichael later. The opening match in the history of Monday Nitro, Jushin Liger versus Brian Pillman.
This famous match, actually. You know what's funny is I remembered this was the opening match on the opening edition of Nitro. I had completely forgotten they did Ric Flair versus Sting for the U.S. title, which actually got me thinking, I need to go back and watch the final Nitro and see if they do the exact same match move for move.
I suspect they did.
Because I'll bet it was extraordinarily similar.
Yeah.
I know one thing about this opening match. I romanticized about it too much.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't really that good.
No, it was not good.
No.
I just like, first of all, Jushin Liger making his entrance in front of the Great Train Store.
That's right.
Everything they showed here, it was just so, between the fact that it was the mid-90s, the fact it was WCW, I hadn't seen it for so long, the fact it was in a mall, like every camera shot has something I wanted to rewind and double check.
Oh, yeah.
And getting the name of the Great Train Store was part of that.
Well, how about right behind them on the left-hand side, there was a flag store.
How did no one go to the flag store the wrestlers then?
A flag store.
All I noticed when they came out for this match was I had forgotten how small that ring was.
Two.
Holy shit, that was a small ring. And it's more that WCW, the WWE had a big ring.
16 or 18?
I believe it was 18, but it was very, very small. And as Craig noted, this match, I think, has been romanticized. I guess it's not really fair to go back and judge a match in hindsight, but even if you don't want to do that, there were a fair number of sloppy spots in this particular match.
How did Flying Brian forget to do a head scissors? He messed it up numerous times.
He tried a Frankensteiner and landed on his own face.
Yes.
To the point where even, I believe, Mongo noted that he'd screwed up a Frankensteiner, which was astonishing. Nick Patrick killed the drama with his shitty counts. Infuriated me through this whole thing. Spot fest, and then finally Pillman rolling cradle for the pin. Yeah. And the place went nuts.
You're right in that it did not live up to its own reputation.
That's true.
Time has not been kind to it. Right. It's still a good match.
Sure.
And the one thing I noted, and this is a positive thing, because what wrestling has become is a bunch of spots with time wasted in between. When these guys were doing mat wrestling, it never felt like they were using rest holds. They were never resting. They were grappling, trying to get a victory.
Well, they had a limited amount of time, but yeah.
Yeah. It was the best thing I saw all week. But here is... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that you could almost look at this and go, well, the reason it was romanticized was because on the other channel, on Raw, Raw was having a lot of very boring, slow-paced matches.
That's probably true.
It was nothing like Pillman and Liger. But we have had Raw on in the background here, and Shawn Michaels was having kick-ass matches with hacksaw fucking Jim Duggan. So I don't buy that excuse for a minute. I don't know why this match was romanticized. Maybe just because little guys jumping a lot and was cool back then. And we've you know, like for example, the X Division match that your son ruined wrestling for him. You know, that was way more fun than this particular match, to be honest with you.
Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. He is not ruined from wrestling.
I see. He's just a new understanding
By the way,
of it.
when Jushin Liger came out, he goes, that's that guy from the ROH pay-per-view.
That's right.
He knew. I was like, that's my boy. I almost teared up.
Craig, it's Jushin Thunder Liger. There's no one like him.
He's 8 years old.
It's not like Austin Aries came out and he recognized him.
Wow.
Go on, Vinny.
Austin Aries in 1995 would have looked very different.
It's true.
Probably would have looked like Cameron.
Cameron's way too big.
It's true.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Okay, so we were talking earlier, and honestly, I forget if it was before or after we came on the air. So if I repeat myself, I apologize. I attempted to watch at one point the first episode of the Monday Night War TV show.
Yes, this was before we went on air.
I could not get through it because, as the saying goes, the winners write the history books, and there was just too much BS for me. But the two things I saw were notable before I gave up were a brief clip of Harlem Heat Wrestling 1 Buddy Wayne.
That's right.
It's short, but it's on there. Two, and what I remember about this was Bischoff made a point of saying that Eric Bischoff said that WCW had been a small southern regional promotion, in part because they had announcers with southern accents. So I had to fire them all. And they showed him the time he brought in Bobby Heenan and Jesse Ventura and Gene Okerlund. Southern accents are gone. So then here you turn on Nitro. Who do they bring in? Steve McMichael.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Luckily, everybody, the death of WCW will be out in a month and a half. So you can read that and find out what really happened during this period.
Yeah. Sting cut a very quick promo calling out Ric Flair. My God, do we need these back? Promos don't need to go 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Just hand someone a microphone, say, you have 20 seconds to call out your opponent, go.
Mm-hmm.
Scream a little, bug out your eyes, get your catchphrases, call it good. This is awesome.
Between Liger in the opening match and Sting here, I have concluded that for the sake of your career, you should wear a mask or paint your face.
Because then no one can see you age.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good call.
That's why I do a radio show. I figured that out a long time ago.
Or just disappear from all visual sight.
That's right.
We had a pre-taped promo with Hulk Hogan at Postomania.
This really happened.
This is a real place.
Why did Hulk Hogan come up with the idea of making pasta?
I don't know.
His Italian roots is Terry Bollea.
Is that Italian?
Might be.
He's got some Italian in him.
All right.
But yes, this was just the idea that Hulk Hogan is going to start a restaurant and he's going to be selling macaroni. Like, what?
People can't wait to... I can't say it.
Pastamania is running wild, brother.
That's what he said.
He explained that he had been eating pasta all day, so he was ready for his match. I cannot recommend enough to athletes, don't do this.
He goes, I'm slim and trim due to Pastamania.
Yeah.
I was like, you're full of shit.
Yeah. Even more so.
Yes. I also like, this is a period where he was still very much Hulk Hogan. He was in fact slim and trim, and he had the mustache, long hair, was Hulk Hogan, and he just gave up on bleaching his eyebrows.
Yes.
Black. So the other thing I liked about this, and I mean, I kind of hope I'm the only one who noticed, but it was great. They had a sign on the menu that said in big letters, "Tonight's Fair." And occasionally the camera would pan down so you couldn't see the top of the R in fair, and then it looked like it said, "Tonight's Fake." I laughed and laughed and laughed. So the next match was Ric Flair versus Sting. As they panned out, I had an epiphany here. How can you do a wrestling show in a mall and not have guys do their entrances coming down the escalator?
It's a great question.
You got me.
That would have been awesome.
That one night they did it on Shotgun Saturday Night from the
Oh, that's right.
from the Manhattan train station.
Yes, and Hunter took the tombstone on the escalator.
Hunter took a tombstone on the escalator and
awesome.
wrote it down.
Yes.
It was great.
It was great. So, McMichael referred to himself as a punch-drunk jock. Kind of sad. Sting came out to A Man Called Sting, which, if you've never heard, you must all go to YouTube and listen to right now. Included such brilliant lyrics as, he does this, he does that. And it was not the worst song on the album by a long shot.
What was the worst song on the album?
The Steiners.
Oh, that's right. Steiner line.
Next stop, Michigan University. Became a wrestling All-American. Liked it so much they went back and did it again. I'm not making any of these up.
Who's that howling?
I don't know.
Did that say he's as big as a boat?
I believe it's as big as a bowl.
Oh, as big as a bull. It's a terrible song.
It's awful.
Is that a man or a woman singing this?
I think it's a girl.
Nobody else. If his friends ever need him, he's there to help. And all the kids, they go wild. And all the old people start to act like a child. Don't you dare cross him or get in his way. 'Cause if you do, you're gonna have to pay to the bank.
All the old people start to act like kids?
Why is that good?
I don't know. It's usually not good when the old people start acting like kids.
Taking selfies and posting nude pictures to the online.
That's the last thing we need.
Smoking marijuana.
Vinny, did you go on the Great Power Oodie's Twitter after I sent it to you?
A little bit.
This is not the greatest Twitter you've ever seen.
Pretty awesome.
I love the one when he announced, unfortunately for all of you, I do not have any nude selfies that have been released.
Yeah.
Great Power Oodie. At Power Oodie, everybody. Go follow him. Incredible. Go on, B.
I believe, didn't Foley do a tour with Power Udi?
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
I wish I had after reading his Twitter.
If you read Foley's book, I think you will disagree.
He told me I sold better for ice than John Cena had 2 weeks after SummerSlam. Which is a fact.
So, while we had all, I think, forgotten that Sting wrestled Ric Flair on the first and last episode of Nitro, I think we all remembered what happened during this match. Because the bell rang, and they circled for a bit, and who should come strolling down the aisle but one Lex Luger?
That's right.
And if you were not around at the time, this was awfully big news. Because Lex had been spotted doing a run-in in the main event of SummerSlam 24 hours earlier.
Yeah, correct.
So this was a huge deal. Bischoff started screaming to get the camera off him and have security take him to the back.
He was selling this like it was an invasion.
Basically, yes.
Not a dude jumping ship.
Right. And never referred to him by a name, although he did later. So, and then the best part of this, Sting and Flair were both distracted, but then they got over it and they wrestled.
That's right.
They didn't do a distraction finish.
That was incredible.
Wrestling used to be awesome. So, yeah, we talked about this earlier. Sting and Flair have probably had 20,000 matches. They were all exactly the same, and they were all great.
My favorite part of this match was Mongo saying he was stupefied by this action.
My favorite part of this match, and it was just a little thing, they both fell outside. Flair, of course, pops up, hits Sting with an eye poke, and Eric Bischoff, as God is my witness, yelled, "Vintage Ric Flair!"
What's funny is that my favorite thing was what happened right after that, because Flair took a few steps back and then went charging in and ended up being press slammed back into the ring, but he couldn't just step back and then attack. He had to turn and go at about half speed, but he reached out and he essentially hit the guardrail like he was running the ropes.
Yeah.
Couldn't help himself. That was awesome. So Arn Anderson came out to watch in a jacket that was in fact straight out of the mid-90s. I forget the deal, but he had a program with Flair going on. And here was where they mentioned Luger by name. And Flair got the figure 4. He grabbed the ropes and refused to break, so Anderson jumped in the ring. Ref called for the bell. They never really explained what the finish was, if Flair was disqualified for not breaking the ropes, or if Sting was disqualified for Arn's interference, but whatever. So Arn started brawling with Flair. Flair bailed to the locker room, and Arn returned to the ring, teased a brawl with Sting, but changed his mind and left.
Yeah.
The action was great.
It was a fun little match. It was every Ric Flair Sting match you've ever seen anytime in your life.
In all seriousness, was there ever a bad Sting Ric Flair match?
I'd have to think about it, but I don't think so.
Yes.
I don't think so. This was also every Flair Nikita Koloff match you've ever seen.
Probably, yeah.
Actually.
Scott Norton hit the announce desk, very angry about something.
Probably heard the commentary about Michaels.
He couldn't believe Mongo got the commentary job.
I thought of that. When Michael got in his face, he had a great stare down, and say what you will about Michael the announcer, but Michael the tough guy talking trash to Scott Norton was pretty awesome. And they did not have this on the house mic. It was just picked up by the cameras on the floor. And before they could get physical, Randy Savage appeared, said if Norton wanted to fight someone, he could fight me right now, jumped in the ring, and Bischoff and security held Norton back and never really went anywhere. I guess they had a match the next show.
Man, Randy Savage is just overflowing with charisma. I know that's not like a... It's not like a revelation, but like sometimes, like it's been a while since I've seen much Randy Savage, but you just watch Raw, you watch all these boring people reading this stupid dialogue, and then you go back and watch Randy Savage being a madman. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
what a professional wrestler this guy was.
Yeah.
No wonder it's all people talk about. You remember the Macho Man? Of course I remember the Macho Man. People ask me that every now and then. They'll ask me questions like, do you remember the Macho Man? They know you write about wrestling. Do you remember the Macho Man? Macho Man. Sounds familiar, but, refresh my memory.
Macho. So, speaking of people who... Actually, there's no segue. Speaking of people who I had completely forgotten, I guess not completely forgotten, but Sabu wrestled in WCW for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did.
They had a Sabu video package of the very first episode.
He's coming.
It was surreal.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely surreal. He's messing with Michael
What
up.
was surreal is I didn't realize he had matches on WCW Saturday Night that they'd actually taped the clips from.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Crazy the things you forget 14
Yes.
years later.
It is. Bray Wyatt's dad cut a promo.
Yeah, Michael Wall Street.
I believe this was his debut as that character. He buried the New Generation, which is what WWF was calling their roster at the time. He said WCW had the best wrestlers in the world, from Hulk Hogan to Ric Flair to Vader, and now Michael Wall Street. He did have a great line about how he knew the IRS would be watching, and really that may have been the last great moment of his career.
The new generation is the few generation, he said.
he even had a dollar sign on the lapel of his jacket, much like the $1 Million Man.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan versus Big Bubba. Actually, a really good choice for a main event for the first Nitro. You're trying to grab WWF fans. Show Hulk Hogan having a rematch with one of his most famous rivals. Makes sense?
God bless the boss man, Bubba here. But I thought he was quite bad in this match. Maybe I'm the only one. I hate that stomping headlock. I hate it with every ounce of my being. And to be honest, to be fair, he was overselling to such a ridiculous degree.
You mean when he would get his head tossed into the turnbuckle
There was
and
that,
he would fly back and look at the ceiling for 28, 30 seconds?
and then Hogan pushing me, took a bump.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was fixing to really cut a promo on this guy, but then I thought about it, and it really made sense at the end of the match when Ed Leslie, as the Zodiac, ran in. It hit me that this guy was wrestling Hulk Hogan. So the gimmick is you sell in the most ridiculous manner possible so that you become one of Hogan's buddies, one of the guys he wants to work with, which ensures your employment.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, this made sense to me, but watching the match, it was just like, this is ridiculous. He's ridiculous in this match.
Remember the match they had on Saturday Night's Main Event where they were in the cage?
Where he got suplexed off the cage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
They took that suplex off the cage all around the horn.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And Hogan blames his bad back on leg drops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it was 95 suplexes off at the top of a cage.
So we buried Sting's WCW theme earlier. I love Hulk Hogan's WCW theme.
Yeah.
I may be the only one. I thought it was great. But Michael said that Hogan cannot possibly lose to Bubba because he was too much of a technician.
Was it American made?
American made. There were signs from people who did not like Hulkster saying things like Hogan sucks and Hogan is a wimp.
He's American man.
Vinny's rocking out over there.
He's got the red, white, and blue running through his veins. He was born and raised in the USA.
That is quite the toe tapper right there.
That gets your blood pumping.
All right.
It's time for action.
Go ahead, Vinny.
All right, so Hulk makes his comeback, hits the big boot and the leg drop. Kevin Sullivan and the Dungeon of Doom run out to attack.
Oh my God, this menagerie of numbskulls. The Zodiac was just the worst. What in the fuck was Ed Leslie doing out there?
I don't know.
He had his face painted, and he was wearing stockings on his arms, and he was gyrating in a gelatinous manner.
And Kamala was there. Kevin Sullivan, was that it? Was Shark there at this point?
The Shark was there, yes. The Earthquake. He ran in as well. So ridiculous.
Yeah, so Lex Luger returned, he hit the ring to make the save, and as they're both tossing bad guys out, they do the great bit where they're punching left and punching right, and they back up into each other and spin around and rear back to throw a punch. They both don't, but they kept shouting at each other. That spot needs to come back, by the way. Two guys back into each other and turn around ready to fight.
That's right.
So the Sting and Randy Savage ran out to hold them back and went to commercial. And they came back. Gene Okerlund was in the ring. Luger explained that Hulk Hogan wore the WCW belt that made him the only world champion, and Luger was there to beat him. He was sick of messing around with kids. He wanted to play with the big boys.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that.
That's what he said.
It's a terrible tagline.
Their tagline was, "It's where the big boys play."
Yeah.
So Hulk put Luger over as a star. He knew all he'd accomplished, but there were thousands of Hulkamaniacs standing behind him, and he defended the belt against Luger next week on Nitro. Like accepted, and he had a bit of a shoving match, and Savage and Sting broke it up again.
It's so funny looking back now that WWF was doing all of their steroid testing, and then WCW just flat out says, "This is where the big boys play."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, Jesus. And I'm telling you guys, as much as I made fun of the guy, you have got to watch this show and watch the Zodiacs run in. That right there is worth the admission for this episode of Nitro, the debut of the Zodiac here on this program. It's just outrageous, this run-in. So yeah, that was Nitro. Next week,
the last bit, just real quick, they spent 1 minute, they just went to the announcers who recapped everything they had seen and said, "Here's what you're going to see next week." It took 1 minute of TV time, and it made the show so much better.
Dude, you remember how many times we've watched like these old shows on Classics on Demand, and they did the wrap-up like that? Mm-hmm. And it's like, every single time it was great.
And
I never saw a bad one.
It completes the show you have just watched and also leaves you excited for next week's episode.
Indeed.
I know. And the lesson I learned from the 1 hour debut of Monday Nitro is that in the past 2 decades, wrestling has gotten a lot shittier.
Well, just you wait.
The lesson I learned from watching this is Raw needs to be an hour.
That too.
Well, that's right. The first Nitro.
Or the second one.
The first head-to-head Nitro is what I meant.
I see.
Who won?
I have no idea.
Nitro.
Oh, there you go.
2.5 to 2.2. This is history, Vinny. The Monday Night War started with a win by WCW.
All right, Brian. In the Lost show, I mentioned that there was a man on Ring of Honor who did not have the best match on the show, but he had my favorite match on the show.
The Moose.
Moose, everyone, was the best part of Ring of Honor. So I turn this Nitro, and what do I see? A whole company full of mooses. This is awesome. First of all, for the second week in a row, they had helicopter skyline shots to show the outside of a building with a roof.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Bischoff said Hulk Hogan would be defending his title tonight in the match of the century.
That's what he said. Which, by the way, just so I don't forget, when the match was over, and we'll talk about the match, Hulk Hogan called it one of the great matches of his career.
Yes.
Well.
Yes. So they announced that Vader was, as they put it, AWOL. So he had not filed the proper documents, and so he was out of the pay-per-view on Sunday.
The match of his life were his exact words.
Hogan said that.
The match of his life with Lex Luger.
Yeah.
Do you know where Vader was?
Did he leave to go to WWF?
Well, he hadn't left yet, but he had just had the locker room brawl with Paul Orndorff.
Oh.
And he was suspended.
I see.
So he did eventually go back to WWF. And so essentially they did a trade where WCW got Luger and WWF got Vader. So WWF got the better end of that bargain.
Mm-hmm. So Hogan's team is now a man down for the War Games match on Sunday.
You know what's funny about Paul Orndorff is...
his mustache.
That's true.
I don't know why, but I started the newsletter in June of 1995. And so I watched every single solitary episode of Raw and Nitro. From that period until it died, I watched every show. And it was a videotape era, so I probably watched a lot of those shows several times. I have no idea what it is, but I have no memory of ever watching Paul Orndorff in WCW. I don't know why. I remember all of this stuff like it happened yesterday, and they bring Paul Orndorff on the screen, and I'm like, Paul Orndorff is wrestling on Nitro next week? What?
He did not do a lot on Nitro. in fact, I think, is right about the time when Nitro started was when his run there wound down.
Yes.
He did a ton of stuff on Saturday night.
Well, that might have been the problem.
Specifically, the tag team with Paul Roma of Pretty Wonderful.
Pretty Wonderful, that's right.
It's a great team.
That's right.
The opener was Alex Wright versus, in his WCW debut, Sabu.
Yes.
Or at least his Nitro debut.
His 2-month run before he ran back to ECW.
Oh, yeah. He had a lot of short stays in a lot of places. So, in a wrestling landscape where the Monday night scene had been featuring like hog farmers and garbage men, I guess this is before Savio Vega's time, but with a bunch of crap on Raw, for the most part, out comes this lunatic. That is the only word you can use. And he's throwing himself into, over, through, and off of everything available.
Oh, yeah.
He's doing springboards, he's doing flip dives, jumping off chairs, crashing into guardrails. Alex Wright, by the way, held his own.
I guess.
In a big missile dropkick, in a big running plancha. There was a point, actually, where he had a superplex, and then the match just stopped. Mm-hmm. Like he went to pick Sabu up, and neither of them knew what to do or something, I don't know. And the finish was... disaster is probably too strong a word, but Sabu hit a victory roll off the top rope. And he's got him for the pin, and Nick Patrick drops to count.
My favorite referee.
He counts 1, and he counts 2, and then Sabu looks at him, and Nick goes to count 3, and then Wright kicks out, and then the match just stopped.
Oh, God.
That was not very good.
He's a Steve Mazzagatti of WCW referees, fucking up every week.
That shouldn't have been as funny as it was, but it was.
It's a fact.
So then Sabu set up a table on the floor, and he sat right up on the table. Not laid him out, sat him up.
Well, I couldn't figure out what the fuck was going on. Like, he kind of laid him down, but then Wright just kind of sat up and was leaning against the table.
Yeah.
And then Sabu goes in and he starts going up to the top rope, and I'm like, you might want to lay on that table there, Wright. And he didn't. And so Sabu did this wild leap, overshot him, smashed his own ass through the table, and they both went down.
Yeah.
And then Bobby Heenan starts howling about something else unrelated to professional wrestling. Holy fuck these announcers. I'll get to them in a second. But Sabu just like, this is his debut. And he comes in all taped up and selling his hip.
Yes.
He then proceeds to kill himself.
Yes.
He was going to do a running dive off a chair and miss a body block into the guardrail, but he misjudged his jump, and he never even hit the guardrail. He just splatted on the cement.
I was going to bring that up.
Oh.
You ever seen the old Roadrunner and Coyote?
That's exactly what this was.
And Coyote every so often would be running after Roadrunner, but Roadrunner would stop and Coyote would run off of the cliff.
Yes.
And he would sit there for just a second, look at the camera, break down that fourth wall, and then 1001, 1002, and then he would fall.
Yes, I do.
This was Sabu.
I was waiting for when Sabu landed, like the boulder would fall on him.
Right.
Oh, this is the giant poof of dust?
Yes. This match was incredibly sloppy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it was like at the time, but looking back on it, it was like, wow, this was just like a mess. What a mess.
But it was a fun mess.
I guess.
I enjoyed this.
I did too.
Immensely.
It's probably really cool if you'd never seen Sabu.
I would not need to see this every week.
No.
I thought it was cool because I had seen Sabu.
You know the most amazing thing watching it is Sabu is still around today.
Yeah.
He's got less hair, but yeah.
From watching this match, you would expect that he wouldn't have made it through the 90s.
You'd expect his arms and legs to all fall off.
Yeah.
Right.
He'd be like, in a iron lung by now.
Yeah.
Driving his chair with a straw.
Yes. Yes. Gene Okerlund was in the ring calling out Ric Flair for a promo. Flair was talking about how he had partied all night long in Miami, but his best friend had not been there. Arn Anderson had been in the hotel on the phone with his wife and son.
What a
pusher.
I love that this is the feud. Arn grew up, and so now Rick hates him.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So he's ranting and raving and being Ric Flair, and Lex Luger walks out. Flair was very excited to see him. Mm-hmm. Put him over like $1 million. Kept calling him package. And then Luger says, Flair, you're too much.
Yeah.
And he left. And then it ended.
Why did Luger come out?
What in the hell was this?
I think the idea was Luger debuted in WCW, and you didn't know if he was a good guy or a bad guy.
I see.
And so they were putting him here with Flair to make you think that maybe he was going to be a heel. But really, it was just a completely pointless segment. But the thing was, Flair is so entertaining that it made this segment great.
I loved how Flair was like pawing at Luger.
I know.
Just
Basically,
as he called
yeah.
him, package.
Yeah, running his hands down his chest. And,
Look at you, package. 6'5", 275. Package.
Lex is trying so hard not to laugh.
Oh, yeah.
and I don't know if it's just me, but Flair's hair in the 90s, I still can't get over it.
Flair's hair. Jesus Christ. They should have a shot of Pillman, who's going to be wrestling
Yeah,
next weekend.
I think this was when they still wanted him to, or shortly after, they wanted him to do the Gladiator thing.
No, I think Gladiator was a lot earlier. Spartacus.
Yeah.
It was much earlier.
I
It
thought
was
he cut-
years earlier.
Okay, so he cut his hair for that. I guess he just kept the haircut for
I
a while.
see. Okay.
Yeah. VK Wall Street versus Sting.
Bray Wyatt Sr.
Yeah. Versus Sting.
A man called Sting.
A man called Sting who does this and also does that.
I don't know what he did in this match.
Bischoff let everyone know that Raw was taped and that Shawn Michaels knocked out the big guy with a super kick. His exact words. Then he proceeded to bury Shawn's super kick. You know, I realize you wanted to make your program look cool and the other program look bad, but first of all, of all the guys to attack for having bad-looking kicks on Monday Night Raw, Shawn Michaels is not the guy I would target.
Well, if I recall
okay.
correctly, they were terrible kicks in that match with Sid, but he was also wrestling Sid.
Well, that too.
Because remember, Sid had to bend forward so he could super kick him in the head?
Actually,
Yes.
I don't remember that at all, actually.
I don't remember this.
But more to the point, and maybe it probably wouldn't matter, but at some point, maybe you would want to sign Shawn Michaels. Maybe you shouldn't bury him before that.
He did say it wouldn't have got him a green belt at the local YMCA.
Yes.
Wow. Fighting words, those.
Eric takes karate very seriously.
He takes his karate as very, very seriously.
So Mongo added that all his ex-football playing buddies no longer watch football on Monday nights. They watch wrestling.
Bull.
Actually, the more I think about it, the more it's possible. That's
You
possible.
know what's funny about... remember when Bischoff lost his mind and he challenged Vince to a fight? And everybody was talking about who would win? Even though Bischoff was like a karate guy, he'd at least had some combat experience.
Yes.
Vince McMahon had none at all.
No. He was...
Well, what was Vince McMahon going to do in this fight? I know Vince thought he was like a tough guy and he like challenged him to a parking lot brawl or something like that. But I've seen Vince wrestle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Vince is athletically lacking in a lot of ways.
True.
What in the
all of
hell
them.
was he going to do to Eric Bischoff?
Intimidating with his mass.
Eric would have just kicked his quads until they tore. Why am
So
I
once-
analyzing a fake... why am I analyzing I don't know.
It's a great question.
I just was thinking about that.
So by and large, I really like this match. They worked really hard. He did very basic stuff.
So this was like Buddy versus Brian. High cross finish.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. It was so old school.
The one part of that is there was a point where I don't even ever seen Major League, Brian. Craig, have you seen Major League?
Of course.
There's the great scene where the guy's trying to steal a base and he just starts to slide and it comes up way short.
Yes.
Which actually, I think it actually happened in a real game not that long ago. Sting basically did the same thing here where he tried to slingshot shoulder block and just came up way, way, way short.
Yes.
So I laughed at that. Otherwise, very fun match, very basic, very old school. And Sting hit the Stinger Splash and the top rope body press. And yes, no Scorpion. He just pinned him.
Yep.
It was a very average match in 1995 that would be the best match often on SmackDown these days.
And then Mongo summed up the whole match when he said, and I quote, "Ring my bell."
This
Not a
Mongo.
fan of Mongo.
Not a bit.
Dude, in hindsight now, as much as we have made fun of Michael Cole and
Yeah.
Todd
Go, Brian.
Harris, is that his name?
Keep
What the
going.
hell's that guy's name on SmackDown?
Phillips.
Todd Phillips. Who's Todd Harris?
I don't know.
Hopefully not a porn star. Todd Phillips. As much as we make fun of these numbskulls, there has never been an announcer as bad as Steve Mongo McMichael. I'm talking anywhere.
Yeah.
In any company ever.
Yeah.
He is the dirt worst. He's so bad at his job, he didn't know anybody.
No.
The Dungeon of Doom ran into the main event, and he had no idea who any of them were, including Kevin Sullivan, the guy who runs the fucking organization. It would have taken 5 minutes to write some notes down based on the lineup for this show. Everything he said was stupid. Nothing he said was funny.
Yeah.
He was the worst announcer I've ever seen.
Wow.
Who is even close, Vinny?
He's not good.
Who is even close?
He's not good at all. David Crockett was pretty awful.
Nothing
No.
like this. Mike Adamle?
See, at least Mongo had enthusiasm.
Well,
He was loudly proclaiming
that's
stuff
funny coming from Vinny.
about guys he didn't know. I suck. What do you want me to do?
Vinny, you are so much better than Mongo McMichael. If that makes you feel any better.
If you say so.
Not only that, this motherfucker is spending half the time challenging the other wrestlers to a
Yeah.
fight.
Well, that too. Yeah,
He's threatening to beat up the wrestlers.
Yeah, that's not
in
good.
between, when Scott Norton comes out, talking about how Scott Norton benches 500 pounds, and he goes, there's nobody in the NFL that can bench 500 pounds. Now, I don't know jack shit about football, but that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And they said, well, I could bench 500, but I'm not in the NFL right now.
By the way, all while
Horrible.
holding a chihuahua and a sombrero.
In a sombrero.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Todd Harris has done play-by-play for UFC on Versus.
No, that's who it is. Okay, I got it. No one in UFC is worse than Mongo. Why was he called Mongo?
That was a nickname from football.
Short for what?
It wasn't short for. It was just, I don't know where he got it. You know what? Wasn't Mongo Alex Karras' character in Blazing Saddles?
Yes.
Okay, that's where I got
Okay.
it. 'Cause I was actually thinking of
The only
being the
word,
Merciless from Planet Mongo, I think.
the only word in the English language that I can think of that starts with Mongo is
Mongrel.
Mongoloid.
Okay, that too.
Or maybe Mongolian, which he was not.
Did he ever punch a horse?
Fuck, he may have. I don't know. Go on, Vinny.
Okay, yes, Mongo was the planet where Ming the Merciless was from. I've confirmed that.
Who?
The bad guy in Flash Gordon.
Oh, Ming
Ming the Merciless.
the
Not
Merciless.
to be confused with the monster Meng.
Flash.
So, the...
I think Vinny's. I got a new gimmick for Vinny.
Oh, no.
Ming the Merciful.
I've never... Actually, that's not bad.
Every time you're getting heat on somebody, you feel bad for them, and then they beat you.
They roll me up.
You're too merciful. You wear a superhero costume, Flash Gordon theme.
Well, that right there has me sold.
This is the best idea I've ever had, and I've had a lot of them.
Brian is right now writing it down.
No, I'm finding the Flash Gordon theme. Imagine Vinny V coming out to this theme.
In Flash Gordon's costume.
It builds. Now he hits the ring.
Savior of the universe.
All right, I gotta come back.
Ming the Merciful. I'm going to keep this playing during the next song, or the next match. Go ahead, Vinny.
I will never forget when Shaquille O'Neal was a rookie basketball player. He had a big game against somebody, and they're interviewing him afterwards, and he is speaking in 100% generic jock speak. He says, I give all the credit to my coaches and teammates. They worked hard to put me in a good position to make some plays, and we got the win. That's most important. He stops, and he looks off in the distance, and he says, Shaq! Oh! Savior of the universe. Shaq was awesome.
Yeah.
All right. They plugged the Saturday night show with the following lineup. The debut of Disco Inferno,
Wow.
Renegade versus Max Muscle, And
That sounds like the worst match of all time, actually.
and Big Bubba versus Dave Sullivan.
Wow.
They plugged this lineup, and I thought, holy crap, no wonder they died.
That's a bad lineup right there.
That is awful. Scott Norton versus Randy Savage.
This was something else.
This was awesome.
This is great. I didn't see a lot of Scott Norton. I actually remember him more in the AWA than the NWA. And then, of course, he spent most of his career in Japan. But my memories of him were, of course, a very, 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 very large man. But my memories were that he was not very mobile.
Scott Flash Norton.
He wasn't
How,
that fast
oh,
forward.
my God, you're right.
How did we all miss that?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so Scott was bumping his ass off in this match. He was getting way over for a hip toss. Get his feet high up in the air. He's falling all over the place.
So this is what it reminded of when I thought of this match, actually.
Yes,
He beat the shit out of Randy Savage.
he did. At one point, Bobby Heenan suggested Savage might have a broken spleen.
Is that the proper medical term?
I don't think so.
broke my spleen.
I don't believe that's how what they teach in med school. But so seeing a lot of wrestling these days, a lot of indie wrestling, and talking about how guys don't sell very often or don't sell very well. Randy Savage, everyone, when the announcers were talking about how he might have broken his back, he was laying on the mat like a man with a broken back.
Oh, yeah.
He was in great agony and in distress and needed help. Finally started making a comeback. And then they did the best horrible finish ever.
This was incredible.
I have never seen a shitty finish this great. So, Kamala and Shark run down.
Or, as Eric Bischoff called him, Avalanche.
Yeah.
Sure. So that's approximately somewhere between 800 to 1,000 pounds of human being. And Norton, of course, is also a monster. So enter the ring together. Savage manages somehow to throw Norton into Shark, who then bounces into Kamala. And I swear to God, as this happened, I actually heard bowling pins falling down in my head. All the fat guys fall down. And I don't know how this happened still, but somehow Shark was A, knocked unconscious, and B, fell across Scott Norton's legs.
Yes.
So Norton is now pinned by the great fish. Shark is over his legs, and Norton, for all the might of his 500-pound bench press, he can't move this big fat guy.
No, he's trapped.
He's trapped. And the referee don't care.
No.
It's not my problem, he
What's
says.
he going to do? Call the Coast Guard?
Call Quint.
Greenpeace.
Put another barrel in him. So, Savage just goes up top, hits the top rope elbow, pins Scott Norton, whose legs are still under the Shark, and Randy Savage wins.
Yeah.
Oh, how I laughed.
Norton couldn't kick out because the Shark was on his legs.
Yes. I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed.
I laughed that Norton got his shoulder up anyway.
I didn't even notice that.
Oh, yeah.
You got to save
Oh,
face.
God. I was just...
Got to protect himself for Japan, you know. So, all the rest of the Dungeon of Doom came out, and Savage ran to the back, and Norton, needless to say, was not happy about this, and he got in a shoving match with a Shark, but Kevin Sullivan led his men away. Pro wrestling used to be so much fun.
I liked when the match was over. Bischoff is recapping what went down, and he goes, Scott Norton came here to make a name for himself, and he choked,
Yes!
thanks to the Dungeon of Doom.
Yes, he said this.
And I was like, he choked thanks to the Dungeon of Doom? First off, he didn't choke. A fucking fish fell on his legs, and he was trapped. How's this choke? He beat the shit out of Randy Savage before 500 pounds of blubber held him down. Very disrespectful of Eric Bischoff. No wonder Norton was upset.
Yeah.
Couple of things. Norton's chest was as wide as his shoulders were.
He's a very thick man.
Oh my gosh, he's a huge man.
Yeah.
And then Savage came out in a neon lime green outfit, accessorized with a red hat.
Yeah. Who are you to judge Randy Savage?
Yeah,
I'm
Jesus,
sorry.
come on now. I've seen Craig Corrosion.
That's true. But yeah, I love this match. Scott Norton.
It was very
he's
funny.
the man. He was on your show one time, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was.
I
Great.
need to get him back on the show
Absolutely.
someday. Ask him about this match. The Shark.
Main event was Lex Luger versus Hulk Hogan.
Battle of the Century.
It was tremendous.
You know what? I remember this because I remember this match specifically because I emailed or texted you. Probably email at the time.
I don't think it was texting in
I don't
1995.
think
Right.
maybe you paged me.
That's very possible.
Signal fire.
But I texted you.
Maybe you left a message on
emailed-
the YWF hotline.
That's very
There you
possible.
go.
That's actually more likely.
And I said, "You're not going to," because we were able to watch Nitro and then Raw came on
Yes.
because we live on
I don't know
the West
why.
Coast. Because we would get the East Coast feed of Nitro, and
I
then
don't think I got that.
okay, well I
But
did,
anyway, go on.
and I made communication with you somehow and said Hulk Hogan put on a clinic in this match.
Yeah.
And he really did. Per Hulk Hogan standards.
It was a clinic of how to get the most out of nothing.
Yeah. That's a clinic.
He was chain wrestling.
Well,
he did
a
one takedown and then he got the guy.
He did do a half Nelson with a wrist lock,
Yeah.
which I don't think I've seen before or since, and then he just let it go.
Well, what's Luger going to do?
Well, that's a good point.
That's
no reversals.
Solid point.
I'll give you that. Yeah. Go ahead, Vinny. I'm
So,
sorry.
Dave gave this match 1 star at the time.
oh, come on now.
I thought it was a little bit better than that, but
No, this match was clearly better than average.
I think he was upset about it because they built it up as a match of the century and then they got like 6 minutes.
That's possible. That's possible. It was very basic. Luger did some offense, ended with a suplex. Hulk no-sold it, popped up. Place popped huge. Luger was baffled. Wrestled again. Then Hulk hit a suplex and Luger no-sold it. They were equals. Mighty men.
It's an amazing review, Vinny. I had not thought of this before.
Yes, there's grand storytelling here. They were titans having a war. Luger got up with a torture rack. The ref goes to drop the arm 3 times, which is kind of funny by itself. And he drops the arm once, and he drops the arm twice, and then Luger was confused, and he let the hold go. Thought he'd won the world title.
What a fucking rookie mistake that was.
It was.
Jesus.
There was a point here also where Hulk had the advantage, and Bischoff noted that Luger was not up to this level of competition.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great line, actually.
Because the WWF champion was merely a mid-carder when he was in WCW.
And it was true.
Which is a fair point.
It was a fact. So the ref said, no, you have not won yet. So Luger made a cover, and Hogan kicked out and did the big Hulk up. And he hit the big boot and the leg drop, and the Dungeon of Doom attacked for the DQ. And
Nothing's changed.
No.
nothing has changed. So they're beating up Hulk, and Savage and Sting are out to make the save. Meanwhile, Lex is lying on the ropes, and the Dungeon of Doom is leaving him alone. The babyfaces cleared the ring, but Hulk was still pissed at Luger. They go to break. They come back. All the babyfaces are still out there, and Gene Okerlund's interviewing them. God, Gene was awesome. Hulk demanded to know, ask Luger, why did the Dungeon leave you alone? Are you on their side? Savage said he also wanted to hear this. Sting stepped up to speak for Lex, said, look, we need someone to replace Vader, and this man, Lex Hogan, he just gave you a run for your money. We should add him to the team. Randy Savage was outraged at this idea.
I love that Randy Savage's character was a wild, crazy, paranoid guy.
Yes.
May as well have brought a gun to the ring while he was at it.
Sure. He said he would rather wrestle 3-on-4 than wrestle with someone he couldn't trust. He said the Dungeon did not attack Jimmy Hart either, or Sting. Jimmy said, yeah, it's because I wasn't here. I left to go get Sting.
Valid argument.
Solid
there.
point for the man from Memphis.
Valid argument.
So Savage voted against Luger. Sting voted for him. It came down to Hulk for the deciding vote. Of course it did. And Hulk said he didn't know what to do, but he said it was time to test Luger and asked him to be in the team.
Well, Hogan's a champion, so he should
Oh,
get
that's
the
also true.
deciding
That is
vote.
also true.
These belts mattered back then.
That's true. And so Hulk asks Lex to be in the team. Sting turns to Lex and says, please accept this and don't embarrass me. Also good point. So Luger accepts on the condition that he gets a title shot down the line. This pissed Savage off further because it proved Lex was only out for himself. They all shouted at each other for a bit. And then they plugged next week, Paul Orndorff versus Johnny B. Bad, plus the Nasty Boys, the American Males, and the Blue Bloods. Tag teams! Everything I love about wrestling!
Well, I did hear that next week has got a really, really funny moment. And I can only imagine if it surpasses the avalanche falling on Scott Norton's legs.
It won't.
Or just the very appearance of the Zodiac. Every time I see the Zodiac, I just laugh.
Yeah.
Like, whose idea was this?
He's supposed to be like Beetlejuice or...
No, he's the Zodiac.
I understand
He's
what
a
his
serial
name is.
killer.
No.
What?
Yeah, the Zodiac killer.
They couldn't find him?
What do you mean they couldn't find him?
Well, they never can find a serial killer. I mean, the Zodiac looked like that. They couldn't find him?
I don't know. I don't know why the fuck they called him the Zodiac.
Isn't that one of those boats that your wife runs out on? Look at whales?
The Zodiac?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
What's the point of all of this?
It was a stupid gimmick.
It was a very, very bad gimmick.
In fact, the whole Dungeon of Doom was pretty dumb.
Yes. That is a fact.
Yeah.
It was pretty terrible.
There was nothing good about it.
No. And by the way, second Nitro in a row where the Dungeon of Doom ran in the main event.
Well, they were setting up Fall Brawl.
Yeah, that was the following...
Which was the Hulkamaniacs versus the Dungeon of Doom.
This is the go-home show.
In a War Games.
So after Fall Brawl, we'll never see these guys again.
Well, not much, actually.
Dude, you know what? Instead of watching... I guess we'd screw up if we didn't watch episode 3 because we're trying to stick to the thing. I'm kind of intrigued to see Fall Brawl now, actually.
According to... that's not a bad idea. According to Wikipedia...
Craig doesn't want to watch all that wrestling.
No, that's too much
We don't
wrestling.
have to do it all in one week. The Zodiac was a character wearing black and white face paint and only ever saying, yes, no, yes, no. The Dungeon of Doom feuded with Hogan for most of the remainder of 95. Hogan eventually turned Zodiac against his stablemates by revealing him as a mole. He outsmarted the Dungeon of Doom. And then,
Wow.
of course, he went from there to being the Booty Man.
Whose finisher was the high knee.
The high knee, that's in here.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know who wrote this on Wikipedia, but you're a genius. His gimmick was that of a man infatuated with his own buttocks, shaking them on the way to the ring and during matches.
That's where Billy Gunn stole it.
Yeah.
Now there's a feud.
Okay, I got an idea.
How do we never get the Booty Man versus Mr. Ass?
I've got to watch this pay-per-view now. Let's do this. It'll be fine, Craig.
Uh-huh.
We'll watch Fall Brawl for next Tuesday. And then the week after, we'll just watch 2 Nitros and get caught up. And then it'll be 1 Nitro after that.
I vote we watch half of Fall Brawl.
Half of
I'm
it.
with Vinny.
It's a 3-hour show.
But
Yeah.
you know what you're going to miss if you're going to choose the wrong half invariably.
Well, I figured we'd watch the whole thing, but we'd take 2 weeks to do it.
I see. All right, we'll figure it out, everybody. And thank you, WCW, for Fall Brawl. Go ahead, Vinny.
Okay. So we watched, did not watch the entire show. We watched 2 things we were supposed to. I also, someone suggested I take 5 minutes and watch the Cobra Craig Pittman segment, which was just goofy and bad, really.
Did you know that Craig Pittman earlier that same year had done Vale Tudo Japan 95?
Yeah, we watched that.
And went to the second round.
Yeah, we watched that movie.
What?
It's true, Craig.
Oh, my God.
If you guys have the DVD Choke, which is a classic, you can watch Craig Pittman fighting in Vale Tudo 95. True story. April 1995. And he won with an armbar here, so he learned something in Japan.
With an armbar. All right, so the other thing we watched was Paul Orndorff and his career resurgence. So,
What a resurgence.
So Paul was on a losing streak. And after a loss to Randy Savage, he lost his damn mind. And he went in the dressing room and he threw a tantrum, punched the wall, kicking chairs, screaming, and they kept editing clips, putting in camera cuts to make it seem like it was a much longer tantrum they cut down to TV
Yeah, it
time.
wasn't one long tantrum. They showed 95 clips of him hitting various things, including his own head on the mirror.
Yes. And like he would calm down, then get angry again, went off for a while, and finally he got it out of his system, apparently. And he was still down, but he was getting undressed and he was unlacing his boots. And then the door to the dressing room opened. And Paul Orndorff looked up and in walked
A chia pet.
I still don't know.
It was like he was wearing a loofah on his head, and he had a Elvis one-piece jumpsuit on.
Yeah, a white jumpsuit. The pants are just pants. The shirt had like
Frills?
tassels, frills,
Sure.
carpeting. I don't know.
The loofah on his head.
The head.
It was a chia pet.
It was like they took a perfectly like a basketball-sized styrofoam ball
Yes.
and cut out room for his head and stuck it on there and said, "That's your wig."
The best one I saw was somebody who would Photoshop the Death Star onto his head.
And I was trying to figure out, is that supposed to be his hair? Is it supposed to be
That's what I thought.
styrofoam? What were they going for
I
with
can
this?
answer this question because I remember Gary Spivey. But when I went back and watched this, like one of those things where you watch it years later and you're really like gobsmacked. Like, what? What? So the story is that when he was young, he was in a rock band and he played the bass.
Don't say, that doesn't make any sense.
And he
Let me finish.
claimed that when he played bass, he dyed his hair gray. So he's claiming that this is, in fact, his real hair.
But that's impossible.
Apparently, he went into like sales and he would run around with the hair and a jumpsuit. And apparently, he was a great salesman.
So wait, this was a real person?
This is a real guy. He's still around. Gary Spivey, the psychic. He's on radio shows everywhere to this fucking day.
Oh my God, he is.
Yes.
That's that guy.
That's the guy.
No way.
This is a real guy.
I thought WCW made him up.
No. Oh, no. He had a podcast this week. He has a weekly podcast where he takes calls and gives people psychic advice. He's still around. And he still looks exactly the same thanks to his hair.
I think he got a new, it's cleaner and whiter.
Well, it's real hair, so just, I'm sure, turned white. Craig is just amazed right now.
Well, I'm picturing his voice, and he sounds like a cartoon character.
Oh, yeah.
And I've heard him call in on the morning show that I listen to, but they have since banned him.
What?
Because he's such a shill, and he doesn't answer any questions, so they just banned him from the morning show that I listen to.
You got to be kidding me.
No.
That's unfair.
This link says, Gary Spivey, psychic fraud, but genuine Q-tip.
I was trying to find one of his podcasts, but it wouldn't play. But on YouTube, okay, I got something even better. This is the Spivey Family Jam Session. You're actually going to be able to hear him play his guitar. Vinny, come here real quick. Craig, you're too far away. He's playing the bass. Oh my god, I thought Vinny was going to just keep walking to the door.
No, we're done talking about Raw. I'm okay now.
He's a pretty goddamn good guitar player.
He plays the bass.
That's still a guitar, you idiot.
No, it's completely different, Brian.
Bass, guitar.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you.
You
Go
know
on,
nothing
Vinny.
about music.
I play the guitar.
Go get your guitar and play something.
Go on, Vinny.
Go get your bass and play guitar.
It's untuned.
I bet.
This guy looks like a giant eraser.
Yes.
All right, so the
Or like a
point is...
dandelion. You know the ones you blow?
Excuse me?
The
Danny?
dandies you blow, you know.
No, I have no idea what you're talking
Go
about.
on, Vinny.
So this guy walked in, a guy I had not seen before or since and thought they made up, but apparently he's a real person. But Orndorff recognized him and said in as wooden a manner as possible.
You recognized him. Like it might have been someone else.
I didn't recognize him.
You know, Gary Spivey.
I didn't know that. Like I say, I thought they made him up for the purpose of the skit. I didn't realize this was an actual human being, and now I don't even know what to do.
This was a big catch for WCW.
If you
Oh,
see this
yeah.
guy once, you're going to recognize him for the rest of your life.
Well, that's true. So Paul Orndorff said, I'll do this imitation as best I can. Gary Spivey?
Gary
From the-
Spivey?
From the psychic Companions Network. He had like 6 words and forgot part of them. So Gary Spivey didn't really do anything psychic here. He just gave him a pep talk. Tried to boost his confidence, tell him he really was wonderful. People call him Mr. Wonderful. And Orndorff flexed, and he said, you know what? I am wonderful. And he admired his own abs and his pecs and his one bicep and kissed his fists. He was happy. So that was it. That's the rebirth of Paul Orndorff.
The best part was when it's over, they go back to the announcers. And Bobby Heenan sold this so hard. My God, it's a rebirth for Mr. Wonderful. I need Gary Spivey in my life. It's amazing. Oh, I miss these days.
Oh, I do too. All right. Skipped ahead to the main event. I did catch just the end of Ric Flair and Arn Anderson.
It was great.
I'm sure it was. The finish was great just because watching Ric Flair and Brian Pillman trade punches. Punches used to look like guys were actually hitting each other.
Well, not only that, but like it was so realistic. Like Pillman comes down and the referee is distracted, and Flair just he looks at Pillman and he just goes, "I apologize, Granny, but this is what Ric Flair said. Get the fuck out of here." And Pillman just kept standing there, so he slapped Flair on the back, and Flair turns around and looks at him, and I think Flair punched him first. And Pillman sold it big, and then Pillman gave him one punch, and Flair sold it big, and then he gave him an it looked so I don't know how to explain this, but it looked real. It looked like real pro wrestling. Not like the pro wrestling you see today, which is just fake pro wrestling.
Yeah.
It looked like real pro wrestling. Like pro wrestling were real. This looked like it. I think it was great.
According to Gary Spivey's Wikipedia page, he is known for his unique hair, which appears to be a dense silver afro or afro wig.
Or afro wig. Yeah. It may be real, they're saying.
Yeah. So, first we got a Kevin Sullivan video package. He was locked in a cage, being a weirdo devil worshiper with his Boston accent, which just made the whole thing funny. And he smashed a Hulk Hogan toy with a shovel and he cackled.
Why can't a guy from Boston be a devil worshiper?
I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm prejudging. But when I think of devil worship, I don't think Boston.
You think the dirty South.
Basically, I'm like the middle of nowhere Texas, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Sure, yeah.
So then the Giant used a monster truck to run over Hulk Hogan's Harley.
What?
You didn't watch this part?
Yeah, it happened.
Oh, I mean, I saw it on Nitro. So the Nitro one was a replay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
It actually happened on main event right before the pay-per-view.
I see. I didn't start watching until the match started.
Yeah. I think the clip on Nitro was actually longer. One of them was longer.
It was much better, I can tell you that much. We'll get to that.
All right. So Tony and Bobby bickered for a while. Then we got another War Games video package.
God, I skipped all of this.
Recapping. Actually, I'm very happy I didn't. It was just so amazing. They recapped the bit where Hulk Hogan was magically transported to the Dungeon's lair, and he said he could feel Andre's aura when the Giant was around.
There are no Hulkamaniacs here.
There's no Hulkamaniacs here. I believe this isn't even hot or something.
So much better than this Bella's shit.
Oh, God, yes. Jesus, yes.
There's no Hulkamaniacs here.
They had clips of Hogan, Sting, and Savage at an actual military installation somewhere, posing with very large guns and running from random explosions. I actually remember this because Vader left, or as they said here, he was AWOL. But there was a bit where they were all up like a scaffold or something, and somebody threw a grenade, and everyone shouted, "Take cover!" And everyone started to run, and I remember Vader actually doing a moonsault off the scaffold. That's how you take cover when a grenade's in the area. Then we got a promo. How many times, just on this show alone, have I watched a promo and said he would win, or I don't know what he said, and it was a waste of time? This promo of Hulk Hogan and his team was amazing. It's one of those, three men, you could not take your eyes off the screen for a moment, because you didn't want to miss anything they said or did. So Hogan's going off about how he and his crew, and they all had camo gear and face paint on. And Hulk said they had drank several gallons of Agent Orange.
Bad idea.
They were now impervious to pain.
If they lived, he's right.
I don't know what got into Randy Savage and Sting, but they're usually maniacs anyway, but they were on another planet of lunacy. And Lex was trying to keep up, but he was not as crazy as these men, frankly. And he vowed he was on their side. There's no dissension in their ranks. And Hulk just kept on raving, and his partners were running around and screaming and flexing and hollering. Wrestling used to be so much fun.
Yes. Men were allowed to be themselves.
Men were allowed to be entertaining.
Yes.
It wasn't read this script about fucking Neanderthals.
Some geek writer is going to make a character for you.
Yeah, it was, you have 30 seconds. Entertain me. Go. So the match was War Games, the Dungeon of Doom versus the Hulkamaniacs.
What a battle.
3 screens of graphics explaining the rules. It's really not that complicated. Although I did like where they said, official time is kept at ringside. Head referee has final say in War Games.
We'll get to that, by the way.
So Michael Buffer was doing full melodramatic introductions, calling Shark the Man-Eater. And the heels all came out. The baby faces all came out up at the top of the stage, and they all moved down to different sides of the big cage. So the match began. And this match, per rule, was guaranteed to go at least 17 minutes.
Yes.
It's the absolute shortest it could go. So Hulk, to start the match, chose for his team Sting. And the Dungeon chose, of all people, the Shark.
Of course.
Let's take our 500-pound man and make him in there the longest.
You know what's funny is, like, there are guys much bigger than the Shark nowadays. But my God, he looked big.
He was awfully big.
He was huge.
I don't know who's that much bigger than him. Big Show, obviously.
Big Show. Mark Henry probably is maybe a little bit bigger.
He's bigger than the Wyatts.
Brodus Clay.
He's gone.
But my God, he's big. By the way, he just debuted for Impact tonight.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I have no idea.
I can't think of a good Brodus Clay name.
I was trying to think of something funny, but I couldn't
me
either.
too.
Frankly, NXT is better for making fun of guys with bad names.
Brodus Putty. That's what they called him.
So, Shark and Sting wrestled for 5 minutes. And
Please tell me the best spot.
I'd be happy to. So, Sting, as you all know, is a great athlete. And so they did a spot where Shark is in one ring and Sting was in the other. And Sting did a big running dive over both sets of ropes onto the Shark and wiped him out.
I love how it's set up, too.
Yeah, they demonstrated Sting did it first. So then Shark cut him off, and Shark attempted to do the same thing, but there was a flaw in his plan. Gravity. So he jumped. He came up yards short.
Before you even say what happened, let's just, for the listeners, there's 2 rings next to each other.
Ropes and everything.
And Shark's idea was, I'm going to run from one ring and do a tope over both sets of ropes and fly so far past them that I hit Sting with my head in the other ring.
You're talking a good 4 feet
Sure.
apart. And
An Uso dive.
Yeah. And remember, if you not see this man, he was like 6'6" and 500 pounds. He was massive. So he hits the ropes. He's coming back the other way, and he jumps with all the might his fins can generate.
Which ain't much.
No.
We found out.
An actual shark could actually jump much higher than this. But he ended up stretched out over the ropes between the 2 rings with his arms hanging off into one ring and his feet dangling off in the other.
Yeah.
And he was stuck and trapped, and Sting started to kick him. Okay, listen to me. I need to get a promoter's license and buy 2 rings in the cage so that I can do this spot. This looks awesome.
It was amazing as the husband of the director of Whale Scout, who has been out on many whale watching expeditions. What he did here was breach.
He did.
It's exactly what he did.
I loved it when Heenan says, it looks like the shark swallowed a canoe.
Yes.
He also noted, I don't think I would have started with the big man. So this 5-minute opening period, Shark barely survived. If it had gone 6 minutes, I don't know what would have happened. But point is, by the end, Sting had overtaken him and actually put him in the Scorpion, his finisher.
Yes.
And just as the clock expired, Zodiac hit the ring. And
The fucking Zodiac.
He gets in the ring and he's waving his hands above his head
Yes.
in ape formation. I don't know what you'd call it. And he's just running circles.
Dude,
Ridiculous.
I don't consider like Eva Marie and who's the other horrible one? Rosa Mendez.
This week, Cameron.
I don't consider these girls like real wrestlers.
Sure.
Nor should you.
But as far as like real, legit wrestlers who like had a career and made their money as wrestlers,
Gotcha.
Zodiac's got to be the worst ever.
Ed Leslie was not very good.
He was so hilariously hideous in this match.
Yes.
Horrible beyond comprehension for someone who had done this for so long.
And had success.
He looked like, they used to call him Dizzy Hogan. Now I know why.
Yeah.
He looked perpetually dizzy.
So Sting fought him off for a while, but there was two of them and one of him, and eventually he was overwhelmed. And I need to make this key point. Once they cut him off and beat him up 2-on-1, that was it. Sting, for the next like 30 minute and 30 seconds, I believe at one point he was able to shoulder block Zodiac down. Other than that, they beat him up. He could not fight 2 minutes on his own. He needed help.
So if this was TNA, what would happen is the good guys would get the man advantage.
Of course.
Sure.
They fucked it up for years. You know what was even better is the next guy.
Everyone's fucked it up for years.
The next guy in was Randy Savage.
Yes.
And so even in TNA when they did it right, like the babyface would come in and he'd just like run wild. And then a heel would come in and they'd get heat. And then, well, in this match, because Sting had been beaten so badly 2-on-1, when Savage hit the ring, Sting was unable to help him.
Yeah.
And so Savage only ran wild briefly before they got the heat on him as well. It was constant heat on the baby faces.
Yes.
Not to mention Ming reached underneath the cage
That's right.
and pulled Savage down and was working over his leg.
He was trying
on
to
the
yank
outside.
his hip out of the socket, they claim.
That's right.
Yes, that was. I do want to know who built this cage, but
Not my dad.
That is a
everybody.
nitpick.
Just want you to know.
Yeah.
that is a nitpick. So by the end, they are the baby faces. They were fighting for themselves, but then Kamala came in. It was 3-on-2, and what followed for the next 2 minutes was heels clubbering the baby faces with the forearms. I think Shark threw a knee at one point, but seriously, for 2 minutes, that was it. Luger hit the ring. Everyone cheered because it was evening the odds. He ran wild. Place exploded. It was totally into him. And then he went to hit, I believe, Zodiac. But whoever it was ducked. He ducked and he hit Savage from behind. And Savage was pissed. Savage went after Luger. Keeping in mind they'd already established Savage didn't trust Luger. So they're brawling. Sting goes to try to make it up. And this, of course, left them vulnerable to attack. And then in came the Monster Meng. And these men were fucked. And for 2 minutes, they were destroyed, savaged, brutalized, conquered.
You know the best part of Luger's being beaten up was he gets knocked down by Brutus, the barber. And the barber goes to pick him up, and you can see Luger calling a spot. Do you know what spot he called?
Hit me.
Rip my shirt off. Died. And Brutus tore his shirt off to expose his physique.
Yeah.
The only I was at a house show in Tacoma, and the first match was Goldust against Brian Pillman, and Goldust had Pillman in the corner. He was up on the second rope, raining down punches, and I heard Pillman call the spot, "Kiss me," and then Goldust did.
Well, there you go. Works every time.
It does. It does. So, all hope was lost. Evil was going to triumph. And who should come in to save the day but, of course, Hulk Hogan, to light our darkest hour. And he ran in like Han Solo coming in the Millennium Falcon to shoot Darth Vader out of the sky. He threw powder in all the heels' faces.
What a dick. First thing he does is cheat.
Oh, yes. There was, to give Zodiac credit, there was a fun bit where he was trapped in between the rings,
Yes.
and Hogan would punch him, and he just kind of ping-pong back and forth for a while.
Yes.
That was fun.
He knew how to make his money.
Sure.
Terrible worker, but smart guy.
Hogan was running wild with back and chest rakes. He was actually a great teammate. Remember all those great Shield matches where even though it was even numbers, they always had the man advantage?
Yes.
That's what Hogan was doing here. Moving around the rings to make sure that everyone who needed help got it. So they fought for a while, and then Hogan was after about, 5 minutes maybe, probably less than that. Hulk isolated Zodiac in one of the cages and put him in the camel clutch, and the Zodiac's gimmick is that he says yes, and so he quit.
Well, I think, no. You almost had it right.
All right.
His gimmick is he says yes, no.
Yes.
And so when the referee asked him if he would submit, he kept saying yes, no, which is why the referee's like, no.
I see.
And then he finally... at first, I was like, this is the worst referee I've ever seen. This is the finish. Just ring the fucking bell. Why do you keep going back and forth? And then I realized Zodiac's yes-no gimmick.
So
that was supposed to be funny.
Yeah. So Hulk's team won, and per the Stips, that meant Hulk got 5 minutes in the cage with Kevin Sullivan. Sullivan tried to run away. They eventually got him back in there. So Hulk's beating him up, and they actually beat him up outside the cage for a while, and then beat him up back in the cage. Then who should come out to make the save but the Giant?
Andor the Gaint. As he was known back in the day.
Andor the Gaint. And comes out, throws the ref aside, opens the door, vaults over the ropes, leaps from cage to cage, and attacks Hogan, no-sells some punches, cranks his neck, leaves him laying with a broken neck. Hulkamania dead forever. Remember when we reviewed NXT TakeOver and talked about how Charlotte carried herself like a star already?
Yes.
Big Show, for the moment he ever appeared on television, carried himself like the biggest star on the show.
I thought that he blew me away, actually. With how poised he was.
Yes. His size, obviously, his athleticism, his presence.
He'd never had a single match in his whole life.
Yeah. And here he was on live pay-per-view in front of, 20,000 people.
He was great.
He was awesome.
Best part about this is I was watching this and Whitney's here, and she's a huge Big Show fan, and he starts coming down the aisle, and she goes, "Oh my God,
yeah,
is that?" And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Daniel Bryan?"
Jeez.
So no, this is 1995. That's the Big Show. Yeah.
Did she recognize him then?
She did after that.
Okay.
She's like, he's so skinny.
He was skinny.
He was pretty skinny back then.
He was skinny. So the lesson here, listen, the action in this match ranged from, generally speaking, below average to out and out terrible. But because they followed the basic script, for the most part, it was a really, really good and really, really fun match. And this is like, remember, I talked about how I felt ripped off by flying to Miami to watch Daniel Bryan wrestle and getting an 18-second match. Mm-hmm. And then I felt the universe paid me back by having the moment in Seattle when they wouldn't stop cheering for him.
Yeah.
This was kind of like that to me. All those shitty War Games matches I had to watch in TNA, and we watched a few in other indies, and they all sucked too. This match, as bad as it was great. I'm
glad you prefaced it by saying as bad as it was.
Yes, it was. The action was sloppy. The move sets were short. But, God, this was a great match. There was a story. The babyfaces were outnumbered all the time. They had to fight like hell and, yes, even cut corners and cheat to win. But in the end, they survived. And then an even bigger, scarier bad guy showed up. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, I love this so much.
At the end of the day, the important thing is it was fun.
Yes.
This was fun. Wrestling is supposed to be fun.
Amen.
And Raw Monday just was not fun. And Impact, there have been years at a time where it was not fun. I don't care about all the rest of this stuff. It should be fun. This was fun. All right, we're going to do Nitro here in a moment. Let me finish off these shout-outs here. Jay says, I've been a subscriber since July. I love the site, especially the Brian Vinny shows. I actually read the amazing newsletters. I'd like to think I got you one more subscriber, my buddy Benson. Tell your two buddies that the Seahawks are whack, and the forehead will soon reign supreme. Oh, man, if you could see Craig's face right now. Not happy. Colm here says, hi, Brian, Vinny, potentially Craig, maybe Granny, hopefully Wang. I signed up on the 10th of August for a month. When it ran out, I signed up for a full year because I enjoyed the month so much. If you could shout me out, it would be great. Not too sure how this works, but if I can bring some attention to my Twitter, at Colm_Ahern, or my video game reviews, my video game videos, actually, on God is a Geek's YouTube channel. It'd be wonderful. Again, not sure if this will be included in a shout-out, but you can't blame a guy for trying after getting a year-long membership. Happy, from a very happy Irish listener. Thank you very much for all the hard work. And that's right, Vinny Irish. Excellent work, gentlemen. I also think it goes without saying we need more Wang. Wang and Granny on their own show would be comedy gold. That is from Colm. Joining the group of people that pick two names randomly and ask to have a show with them.
That's the way it goes, yes.
God only knows why. Scott here says, this evening in Manchester, a shelter for abused and abandoned dogs was subject to an arson attack At the moment of writing, 43 dogs lost their lives over an act of absolute horror. 2 residents, Jason Dyer and Dean Rostock, acted upon themselves to rescue 20 dogs in an act of heroism. As both yourself and Vinny are pet owners yourselves, having spoken about your cats at length on the Brian and Vinny Show, I'm sure that both of you and the listeners are all gigantic animal lovers and can sympathize with this atrocious act. Would you please make mention of the below Just Giving pages where people can donate to the Manchester Dogs Home and help with the plight of the animals that must be terrified at the moment. Any help or publicity they could give would be a tremendous help and an act to restore faith in mankind. You can check out justgiving.com/dogshome or justgiving.com/dogshomefire. Thank you and appreciated. This is Scott Lloyd, the Broken Bear, from Manchester, England. And finally here, Adam just says, I love my subscription. Thanks, guys, for doing a great job. He's from Zeeland, Michigan. Thanks, everybody, for the shout-outs. Of course, if you sign up, send me a receipt and a 150-word shout-out, and I will read it in 2 weeks here on this very show. Nitro, Vinny.
Nitro. So the announcers were running down the show, and they said there was an emergency in the back. Got to Gene Okerlund. There was an ambulance backing up, and Gene was saying that Hulk Hogan had left the pay-per-view in an ambulance. And who popped out but Kevin Sullivan and the Giant? Gene could never just call him the Giant. He had to say the Big Giant. I believe that is redundant. So Giant got a promo, and it was goofy and melodramatic, but it was the middle of a goofy, melodramatic angle, and it fit in fine.
And look at how new he was.
He was brand new to the business. He was so ridiculously talented.
Clearly a guy that watched and enjoyed wrestling as a child.
Yeah. So it was supposed to say the American Males versus the Blue Bloods.
Don't forget he mentioned that he was Andre's son.
He did, yes. American Males versus Blue Bloods. So Mongo, the show was like 5 minutes old, and it had already been at least twice. He had told us to go get Grandma out of the bathroom to watch the show. First of all, I don't know why he assumed everyone's grandma was in the bathroom. But more to the point, if my grandma's in the bathroom, I'm not getting her out of the show, getting her out to watch wrestling. She can stand there until she's done.
God, Mongo was terrible.
He really was.
You know what drove me crazy? Not only is he a bad announcer, but he would, in between shots, they would show the announcers, and he would be listening to Bischoff talk, and he would have an idea in his head. And so when he had the idea in his head, he would hand motion. Like he would throw his hand up and like he had something to say.
You raise your hand.
And he raised his hand and then Bischoff would say, we got to go to commercial. And then he would be like, shucks. I had something really intelligent.
Bischoff wasn't a complete idiot then.
Right.
I got to say one thing about Bischoff. When this show opened, my God, was Eric Bischoff excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was so excited at the start of every Nitro, like it was the most exciting thing in the world. And you would be a fool if you thought about changing the channel.
Well, This was his baby.
Man, you watch any of these wrestling shows nowadays, and they got their script to read, what's coming up. It's just another show. Man, with Bischoff, it was like, this is the biggest day of my life. This impact I'm doing right now.
Eric Bischoff, in the early days of Nitro, was miles and miles ahead of every announcer working in every company right now.
Just his excitement level.
Yes.
He couldn't call a move to save his life.
I don't care.
Vince couldn't either.
He was there to make it exciting and, what's the word? Fun!
Well, he did.
So Harlem Heat came out and kicked the Blue Bloods' ass. I guess it started backstage. And explained they had just won the titles. They deserved to be on TV, and they were willing to give the males a title shot right now. So they were fighting heel champions. It was Harlem Heat and the American Males. They started brawling, and they went to settle down into a regular tag match. And, the ref is supposed to, get guys out of the ring and stuff. But this ref was Nick Patrick, and he sucks. So he just stood in the corner, and the wrestlers had to break it up themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so bad. Booker T used an axe kick, and Eric Bischoff referenced K1.
Why not?
That's strange.
You see a lot of axe kicks in K1.
So Sherry tried to interfere, but Colonel Parker came out to get her, and they began to make out.
She swooned into his arms.
And who wouldn't?
Tennessee Stud.
Yes. Well, if you all read Foley's book, you know why. And Booker T tried a pump handle, but Bagwell fell on top of him, and the ref counted 3, and the American Males won the belts. And then something amazing happened. He showed replays, many of them, in slow motion from various angles, so everyone knew what had happened at the end. I love the show. Also, when I was 20 when this aired, I thought Scotty Riggs was horrible. Scotty Riggs right now would be above average on Raw.
Oh, yeah. You know what I couldn't believe was that the American males are coming down to the ring and all the girls are screaming. So they got some shots of some of the girls in the crowd. And it's like, does wrestling always have to be like 10 years behind the time in terms of styles? I did not know that there were so many mullets on both the males and the females in 1995 in wrestling. Remember it took Shawn Michaels to like 1996 to grow the rest of his hair out?
Yeah.
To fill in his mullet?
Yes.
It's astonishing.
Believe it or not, Booker T was a heck of a wrestler.
I know, yeah.
It was. They all were.
And massively powerful. The Buff mistimed a powerbomb spot and jumped way too early, and Booker T just muscled him up.
Oh, yeah.
It was massively impressive. It was
4 big jacked up dudes.
He was moving in this match. He looked like $1 million.
Yeah, he was really, really good. Gene brought Flair out for a promo. Flair said Arn had broken the code of the pay-per-view, so it was okay to feud amongst themselves and settle things like men, but Arn had gone outside the family to bring in Brian Pillman. Said tonight he was going to chop Pillman so hard that Boomer Esiason would feel it in Long Island. He's going to kick Arn's ass too.
Brian Boomer Esiason was the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals at the time.
Yes,
Thank you.
I believe it was a teammate of Pillman, so they actually may have been.
Didn't matter because the Flair promo was so great.
Yeah. Paul Orndorff versus Johnny B. Bad.
My God, Mr. Wonderful's music.
They do, in fact, call him Mr. Wonderful. Look that up, Ryan.
And, Christopher
His
Rice's
music?
gimmick.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did have Chris Rice's gimmick. He had the mirror.
Yeah.
Checking himself out constantly. And
All right, I got it.
I found it. All right.
All right. Hopefully this is the correct one right here.
I can't think of any other Paul Orndorff songs.
Well, I mean, they've got several here that claim to be his music, so
see.
let's try this one right here. Paul Orndorff's WCW music.
Inspiring.
Peaceful. I'm not sure this isn't the music from the Psychic Spy Network or whatever that Gary Spivey was a part of. Picture of him looking into a mirror right here.
Yeah. Here, we got to hear the woman's voice.
What did Bobby Heenan ask?
I forget. And he knows it too. That's the best song ever.
Oh my God.
That may have just topped the Mountie as my favorite theme of all time.
I gotta play this every time I come on the show.
I'd play it around everywhere I went.
All right, go on, Vinny.
Oh, God. All right. So
I'm gonna loop this as you talk about this match.
Johnny B. Bad came out with his mullet, which was unreal. So they're having a match, and it was going along fine until the point where it was not going along fine anymore. Orndorff's outside, and Johnny wants to hit a dive. So he preps, and he preps, and he preps, but Orndorff won't turn around. And Orndorff stumbles to the other side of the ring, so Bad moves over to hit him on that side. But Orndorff still won't turn around, so Orndorff moves to a third side of the ring. And finally, Bad goes to do a kick through the ropes, and it misses by like a foot, and Orndorff sells it anyway. It's quite bad.
I love the big splash that Paul Orndorff tried. It's the worst ever.
They took turns trying pile drivers in the ring, and finally Orndorff sat down on a sunset flip attempt and got the win.
Credit Gary Spivey!
It was not good. Should I keep going, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Randy Savage was doing some bench presses on the beach.
Oh God, we need the song for this. This segment here.
First of all, maybe I'm wrong. Did they say when this happened? Because they had done the pay-per-view the night before. I don't know where the pay-per-view was, but it was at night.
It must have been that morning.
And this show was also at night in it was Tennessee or somewhere in the South.
They have a lot of beaches in Tennessee, do they?
So you're telling me it's specifically the Baywatch girls?
Well, yeah, they said it was on the set of Baywatch.
Oh, that's
So
Now, did you recognize these Baywatch girls, Vinny?
not one of them.
So they were. I want to know if they were the actual girls on the show, because I am not certain that they were all of legal age. And when Flair showed up, I was almost certain.
well, they were some fine-looking young women. So yes, Randy Savage. Apparently,
They put a bench in the middle of the sand.
you're getting ahead of me.
Sorry.
They did War Games the night before. And then perhaps on a red-eye flight, Randy Savage and his friends flew to California so he could do bench presses in the sand. And then they finished this and then all flew back to the South to do Nitro. This seems inefficient. So he's doing bench presses on the beach, and the girls are there watching him in their super hot red Baywatch swimsuits. And suddenly outruns Kevin Sullivan in David Hasselhoff's jacket.
He's in disguise.
And it worked.
Spit an image if you.
Yeah. He wasn't rolling on the floor eating a cheeseburger.
No. We're singing in German. He pushed the weights down on Savage's chest to beat him up for a bit, and the girls were all scared. And finally, who should arrive but the other Baywatch guys and Ric Flair, who actually I can imagine flying to the West Coast to hang out with women and then flying back to Nitro. That part makes sense.
Ric Flair wearing pink boots and his tights.
Pink trunks and then like a tank
And a
top.
tank top.
Yeah.
Like, you don't wear a tank top with a beach flare? Come on. I love the idea that Randy Savage wanted to do some bench press. First off, I don't know if you guys have ever walked in the sand, but imagine setting up a bench on the sand, how unstable that would be.
Yes.
And then telling him to load 295 pounds on it, which
Yes.
was how much he was supposedly benching here. This is the stupidest idea ever. He's benching, and all the girls around going, big chest, Randy, big chest. Or maybe that was whoever was spotting him. Somebody was telling him big chest as he's benching.
Sounds like Ryback.
And then up came Hasselhoff to push it down on his neck. Couldn't even believe that.
As a large man, I've tried sitting in chairs on the beach.
It doesn't work.
No, not really.
No. You breach.
Right.
Yeah. I love it. Flair kept calling him Devil. Like Flair couldn't remember Sullivan's name. He just knew he was the Devil.
I just don't know why you wear wrestling boots to the beach.
Because he's Ric Flair.
What else are you going to wear?
He jumped. He went. Listen, I've traveled with Buddy Wayne.
Hold on.
When he's wearing his trunks, pumping gas.
So
He went from the War Games to his Learjet in his gear.
Uh-huh.
He took the Learjet to the beach, and then he just walked out like that and was tanning.
Flair takes off his boots. He's got a huge tan line, mid calf.
Yes.
He doesn't ever take off his boots. Don't matter.
I see.
Yeah. God, wrestling was great back then.
It was.
On that note, Randy Savage came out for a promo.
Great promo.
I can't tell you what has happened to this business. What has happened to promos?
I've told you, no one's allowed to be themselves anymore. Listen, every single person that wants to get into wrestling has got to be a little crazy, right?
Yes.
Normal people don't decide they want to be pro wrestlers.
No.
And if they do, they don't get very far. So to become a success in wrestling, you have to be a little bit crazy. Just let all these crazy fuckers be themselves. Quit trying to create characters for them and writing a script. Can you imagine if Randy Savage came up now and they told him to stop talking like that and read this script?
I don't even want to think about it.
You're going to be an accountant.
It's too depressing. So Savage here, first he said, Ric Flair, thanks, but no thanks. Stay out of my business. I will take care of Kevin Sullivan by myself. Hogan, settling this beating from the Giant. Here's a novel idea. He wasn't there.
No.
He missed a show.
His career might be over. He's not on the show the next night.
They promised an update on Saturday night. So he said Hulk was at home watching.
Eating a scone.
Well, he said he was watching, not on television, on his videoscope.
What?
That's what he said.
Who said that?
Savage. Said Hulk was watching at home on his videoscope. He said Hulk.
A word I've never heard.
He said he loved Hulk, but Hulk was a terrible judge of character. And if you're familiar with Hulk Hogan's career, true fact.
Especially his wife.
Well, yeah, good point. So he said Luger had wiped him out with a cheap shot. Jimmy Hart and Sting had tried to stick up for Luger, but they were his best friends. They couldn't be trusted. From this point, you were either with Randy or you were against him. He said Sting, Hart, and Luger were going to join the Dungeon of Doom. Finally, Luger came out to defend himself. He made it one sentence before losing his train of thought, and Savage had to tell him to speak. So Luger said Savage was jealous, and he wanted the championship too. Savage said, sure I do, but the bottom line is you cheap-shotted me. Let's fight right now. And Gene tried to make peace, and Savage was daring Luger to fight and slapped him once or twice, and they had a stare down as they went to commercial.
I do miss the good old days where, like, you aspired to be champion because if you were lucky, maybe someday you'd be the world champion. Unlike today where everybody gets the belt.
Yeah. They aired the angle where the Giant ran over Hulk Hogan's motorcycle.
So awesome.
It was... Why don't you go ahead?
Well, it was great because, like, nowadays it would just be you do this goofy skit, somebody would run over something. Hogan was like, first off, he's on his motorcycle, and he's surrounded by, like, real Americans.
Hold on. Here's what happened. Gene said, and I quote, legions of fans mobbing Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
I counted 12.
Well, that's right. But, you know, it was a narrow camera shot. But there's like, they're like real Americans, like, you know, apple pie. I think one guy even had a hard hat on.
Nice.
But Hogan's there, and the key is, it's not just like Giant did something dastardly. But before the Giant attacks, Hogan is on his bike, and he's talking about how he rode here on Black Beauty. Because he's named his bike.
Yes.
He loves his bike so much, he's given it his name. It's his Black Beauty. And of course, suddenly the monster, the Giant, drives by in a monster truck, and he tries to fucking kill everyone.
That is true.
They flee in terror as this monster truck comes tearing at them. He runs over Black Beauty, and then he begins to laugh maniacally. Ha ha ha! Ha 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 ha! He's in his singlet in the monster truck.
Of course.
Laughing like a crazy man.
Again, like Buddy pumping gas in his trunks.
And then he zooms off again, setting up the Monster Truck Challenge, where he was ultimately thrown off Cobo Hall.
That's right.
I hate to reveal spoilers. I am so excited to watch that because I don't remember why, but I never saw that pay-per-view. I never saw him go off Cobo Hall in a monster truck. I'm going to get to watch it with baby eyes, and I cannot wait. This is so campy, but so great.
Is that what you're calling your wife nowadays, by the way?
What?
Baby eyes?
I don't know. I'll try that one tonight, Craig. I'll let you know how it goes.
You do that.
Tweet it.
Sure.
Please. With a picture.
No. Text will do. Brian Pillman versus Ric Flair. As promised, they chopped the holy living piss out of each other. Bischoff plugged Mike Tenay's hotline, I believe, by saying you could call the hotline to find out who was leaving WCW. I must have misheard him.
No, he's probably talking about Vader.
That's what I thought, but God, that seems like a stupid way to plug your hotline.
Well, they probably wanted a chance to just bury him on the way out.
I see. So, this match went like, 8 minutes. It was awesome. Ric Flair took 95% of it. Pillman got a couple of chops, and of course, Flair got press slammed off the top and all that. But Flair beat him up for a while and put him in the figure four, and he won.
That's right. One of about 5 wins via figure four in his career.
Yes.
It's one of the rare matches where Flair actually hit a chop off the top rope.
I couldn't believe that in his 40s, he did a double sledge off the post to the floor.
He did.
What? And he's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he cuts a promo after the match. I've been chopped to hell. Brian, I know you've been chopped to hell. Craig, I assume you were.
I've chopped you to hell.
Yeah. I've seen guys with red chests and pink chests and even purple chests. Ric Flair's chest was black.
Bruised, yeah.
Yeah.
He demanded Arn Anderson come out and fight, and Arn didn't show, so Flair called him out for next week. And they plugged the Saturday show, Flair Anderson for next week, and suddenly Heenan grabs his headphones and says, something is going on in the back. And Bischoff says, yeah. And he keeps on plugging next week's show, and they never went to the back.
Well, you know.
Live TV.
Things happen in the back all the time.
We'll find out next week.
So the lineup for next week, everyone. Flair versus Arn again. Disco Inferno versus Alex Wright. A Kurosawa appearance. They called him the Japanese Warrior. And I thought he was calling him the Japanese Lawyer.
That's what he'd be nowadays.
Yes.
Got to give him a gimmick.
Also, Savage versus Sullivan and Luger versus Meng, which is a stacked show for 1 hour.
Yeah.
A very fun show. I won't lie. This is pretty forgettable, but
It's forgettable, but it was fun.
it was fun.
I just love the 1 hour aspect of it.
The 1 hour is great.
It's an easy hour to watch.
Oh, yeah. It's an easy, fun hour.
It's a well-paced hour. Nothing drags, but nothing is rushed.
It's an hour-long show, but on the network, it's 40 minutes.
Well,
That's
too.
right.
That helps.
Well, you know, the other thing is it's funny how as time goes by, people come up with new theories, and you forget about what used to be common sense. And a perfect example of that is this show, this Nitro. Back in the day, it was all about you always want to leave them wanting more.
Sure.
You always want to leave them wanting more. So a 1 hour show is just perfect. You give them a little bit and you leave them wanting more. So they can't wait until next week's show. Now you kill them with 3 straight hours. Next week, it'll be 6 straight hours if you count Sunday and Monday back to back. There's no such thing as leaving them wanting more.
God, no. Who could possibly want more?
No, and then when you go back and you watch something like this, it's like, I can't wait to watch Nitro Episode 4 next week. That's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, all right, so Nitro number 4. If you're trying to follow along, everybody, good luck.
It's hard to find.
Actually, today it was impossible to find because what you could do is you could go up and you could go to the upcoming shows and you could find it upcoming and then hit play, right?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, but now when you go to the upcoming schedule, it's now Nitro number 5.
Right.
So you can't game the system that way, and you can't go into the archive because they haven't put it there yet.
No.
And people have been talking about this for a full week now.
Yeah.
I understand someone's going to come up and go, Brian, I can't find a year worth of figure 4s in the archives, blah, 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 blah. Listen, we're a 3-man operation, and 2 of the men don't know what they're doing. So we're essentially a 1-man operation. Not to mention, I don't even know where these newsletters are. It should not be hard with all of the people that the WWE Network has hired to put Nitro number fucking 4 in the archives.
It's on the system. All you have to do is put up a link to it.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Get with the program.
I'm going to help everyone out because someone helped me out. Because I watched this show today. And as noted, the on-demand thing or going through the schedule didn't work for me. Thank goodness somebody sent me a link. This is a link to where to find it on the network, everyone, so this is not piracy. Go to network.wwe.com/video/V. It's not that long.
Can I make this easier for you, Vinny?
It's like a phone number. Go ahead.
Just go to the front page of WrestlingObserver.com, and Vinny's review has the link.
Okay. Now, Vinny, I want you to go to that page. I want you to click that link and see where it takes you.
All right.
It worked for me.
It worked for me.
It didn't work for me.
It didn't work for you.
What happened to you?
No.
What browser do you have?
Because the link I clicked to find it. So
Sorry.
See, got to be on Chrome.
Anyway.
The last part is V355-32359.
VV, like in Vinny V?
No, the 1V.
Luckily, somebody tweeted me earlier, and that link worked just fine.
That's the exact same link.
Okay.
That's how I found it.
There
Anyway.
you go.
All right, Eric Bischoff opened the show, wishing everyone a happy Rosh Hashanah. It's unusual. Alex
Why?
Wright versus Disco Inferno.
It was Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah. I believe Alex Wright becomes the first man to wrestle on Nitro twice. So Disco comes out, and of course he's got the Disco...
No, Sergeant Craig Pittman.
That was later.
No, he wrestled twice.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
It was baffling to me when it happened. I was like, him again?
Okay.
But go on.
Yes. Well, he was on the show too. Anyway, so Disco comes out, and he's got the Disco suit on, and of course he strips off the shirt, and he strips off the white pants to reveal different white pants. I like that.
Yeah.
So, Wright botched the springboard dropkick. I believe the second time he has screwed up this move in 2 matches and kicked Disco hard in the lower back. Mongo said, "Don't switch the channel, everyone. We all know San Francisco is going to win anyway." Sad news for Mongo. There's an internet now, and I can look it up. And no, San Francisco did not win. Detroit won a very close game.
It's funny the things that Vince goes back to check out here 19 years later.
Football score accuracy.
Was Mongo right?
Yeah. So,
Well, he was making a prediction, Vinny. He wasn't making a statement.
actually, his point was don't turn the channel because San Francisco's going to win a boring game. A, San Francisco didn't win. B, the game was close. So he reminded everyone Monday Night Football was on.
Maybe he was just making a funny joke about how when he says don't switch the channel, you expect him to be talking about Raw, but instead he's talking about a football game.
You are giving Mongo too much credit.
Well, I don't know, because this, believe it or not, everybody, Nitro number 4 was the first ever live head-to-head battle between Raw and Nitro.
Uh-huh.
They were both live. Raw killed them.
Let's see.
2-7 to 1-9.
And in hindsight, I can see that.
When you look at the lineup for this show,
Yeah.
my God.
So,
I think they probably won the next week. I'd have to go check, but
Yeah. So match was very basic, and Alex Wright won with the backslide, and you would not believe how happy people were to see Alex Wright beat Disco Inferno in the opener of Monday Nitro.
dude, Alex Wright was one of the last old school pretty boy baby faces.
Yes.
Nice guy, full head of hair,
Yeah. At this point.
skinny, happy, pumping his fists when he won.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make him like that no more.
No. But this crowd was like, it worked. This crowd, maybe it's just Disco was so hateable, but they were very happy when Alex Wright won in the end.
Yeah.
I was watching this with Cameron. Cameron said, "Hey, Dad, who's that?" And I said, "That's Alex Wright." And then,
The son of Steve Wright.
"Dad, who's that other fella?" I said, "That's the Disco Inferno." Hey, Dad. Yes, son. What's disco?
Why does that surprise you? He's 8.
Please tell
Right.
me you played him some.
I barely remember Disco.
Yeah, and then we did a little dance.
You know what's funny about Disco Inferno is he is one of my oldest friends in wrestling.
Really?
I mean, I haven't talked to him much in the last few years, but every now and then he'll Facebook message me.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, I used to talk to Disco all the time.
Yeah, I remember.
And it's so funny because we have completely polar opposite views of how to book wrestling.
we met Disco at that FTW show that one time.
I don't remember, but I'll take your word for it.
We were in the balcony.
FTW is the
That was the one where Billy Gunn wrestled the guy in the mask.
yes, I remember that.
And
Okay.
Raven and Disco had the best comedy match of all time.
That's right. Yes,
And we sat with Disco, and he was so happy to meet you.
it's amazing.
Just smiling ear to ear and shook your hand.
He's a
and
nice guy, but we would never be able to book a promotion together. Unless we were like setting out to book like the worst wrestling promotion of all time. Then we'd have a great time.
I'll tell you something off the air that I saw on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that should be good. Well, okay, tell me on the air.
Well, he was burying you.
That's fine.
Okay.
About the book?
Yeah, he said something about you writing a book and that you weren't there, and how would you know?
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I know.
Because he was there.
I know.
I talked to him a lot.
And it
What
was
an
just,
irony.
It was just funny to me because I remember the time where we were hanging out with Disco in
Yeah.
the balcony and having
Well,
a
the
great
irony
time.
is right now he's a co-host with Conan,
I see.
who also was there.
Right.
Who, when I was on Conan's show, talked to me about how awesome the book was and how completely accurate it was.
I don't know what to tell you, dude.
Funny how that works.
I just know what I read.
All I know is Disco's a friendly guy.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a nice guy. But wrestling-wise, we're just on two different planets.
He did have some great gimmicks when he was in TA.
He had some...
Building the evil architect.
Yes, yes.
I just thought about that for the first time in a decade.
Yeah.
God, those horrible, awful pay-per-view days. Oh, God. All right. Sorry, I got an emotional punch to the gut there. Hulk Hogan, the last time we saw him, the Giant was attempting to remove his head from his body. So he's backstage in a neck brace, and Jimmy Hart has the World Championship belt balanced on Hulk's head, and Hulk is doing neck raises. I don't think you're supposed to do that.
This was such a fabulous segment. Say what you will about Hulk Hogan, but Hulk Hogan was just overflowing with charisma.
Yes.
He was a living, breathing cartoon character, and he was the absolute embodiment of like 80s and 90s pro wrestling. Sitting there with his neck brace, doing these goofy neck bridges with the belt on the back of his neck, threatening to tear it off, and little Jimmy Hart stops him.
Yes.
And talking about the big, no good, stinky giant.
Yeah.
Just fucking awesome. And then he challenges you to a monster truck
So
match.
here's his plan.
How could you hate wrestling? No wonder wrestling was so hot in the 90s.
Yes, it was fun.
This was awesome.
Hulk Hogan was so angry that this 7'4" stinky man had tried to tear his head off.
Yeah.
That he was going to build a truck. Mm-hmm. And he was going to build a truck bigger than the Giant's truck. And then he was going to have a world championship match with them. So his plan was to out-truck him then out-wrestle him, and then he said, I'm going to put you in, what do you say? I'll put you in it's in Detroit where he beat Andre, so I'm going to put you in the grave right next to your father.
Wow.
So his plan was
to kill him,
to out-truck him, out-wrestle him, and then murder him.
Yeah.
This was quite the spectacle.
Oh, it was great. I loved it. It's the best thing on the show.
Lex Luger and Randy Savage had a confrontation in the ring.
Actually, this was pretty good, too.
Luger was pissed that Savage had slapped him last week. He said he had gone toe-to-toe with Sting, and Sting respected him. He had gone toe-to-toe with Hogan, and now Hogan respected him, so he wanted to challenge Savage to a match to earn his respect as well. And he was so confident, and he wanted the match so badly, he said if Savage could beat him, he would leave the WCW.
Man.
So Savage was thrilled with all this. He offered a handshake, and Luger grabbed his shoulders and then left.
Yeah. Savage was thrilled, but he was also baffled.
Yeah.
Like, really? You're going to do this? Are you sure this is a good idea?
Yeah.
I thought this was great. You know what's so good about this? They're building up a giant main event for next week, free on television, and it was a 2-minute interview segment. They both got in there, they went face-to-face, they got to the fucking point, and then they were done.
Amen.
It was not 20 minutes of talking and talking and talking. We don't need it. Just tell us why I don't like each other and what the match is and what the steps are, and then get the hell out of there. God, I wish wrestling was an hour again. It's so much better. And it's not even because 3 hours, you suffer through 3 hours. It's just so much better at an hour.
People have been on the board have been saying we've been romanticizing about
The bullshit.
past. The fact is, you can get through one of these nitros in about 40 minutes, and after, let's be honest, suffering through almost 3 hours of Raw.
Almost. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Well, when you fast forward through the commercials.
And Bella promos.
Right. So this is just a very easy show to watch. And yeah, maybe there is some reminiscing, but who can complain about 40 minutes of a show?
Dude, what on this show was bad if we're reminiscing?
The main event.
The main event was bad.
Okay, the main event was bad, but it's not like I'm going to sit here and tell you this was a great main event.
No.
Nothing
here. I mean, it's 40 minutes, but the 3-hour thing, yes, 3 hours is way too long for a wrestling show, but it's especially too long for a wrestling show that is paced the way that one is. There have been times in Raw where I'm sick of the show 20 minutes in. So that's not because it's 3 hours long. Everything on Nitro, at least in this period, goes as long as it should. They write a 3-hour show, they write a 1-hour show and produce a 1-hour show and pace it for 1 hour. Raw, it's just all over the place. Some things go way. Actually, most things go way too long. Actually, I don't remember the last time something went too short. But it's everything's stretched out too much. And it's
Listen,
bad.
I understand the idea of for the sake of television rights fees doing a 3-hour show because you're making so much more money. But name me one other benefit to having a 3-hour weekly wrestling show. I can't think of one. The thing is 3 hours long. When that show is over, I do not even remember the last time I thought, I can't wait for next week's Raw.
Oh, God, no.
I didn't get enough tonight. I'm always like, wow, that was exhausting. Jesus Christ. With a 1-hour show, think about this. With a 1-hour show, number one, when this show is over, I can't wait for next week's show. I'm ready for Nitro Episode 5. And next week I'm going to watch it and I'm going to love it. Now imagine that you've got a buddy that you want to share your love of wrestling with. And you're like, hey, Bill, have you been watching Raw on Monday night? Why, no, I haven't. Hey, it's really good. Oh, really? When's it on? It's on from 9 to midnight or from 8 to 11.
Must devote an entire evening to it.
Yeah. It's 3 hours every week. Why don't you join me watching this show? Nobody's going to do that. If it were an hour long, maybe you'd get some new fans devoting an hour of their life to the show every single week. But how the hell are you going to build new fans with a 3-hour weekly show? You just can't do it. It's too much. It's too long. Anyway.
No, they're not going to change it, Brian, so I'm sorry. All right. We had a quick plug for the truck versus truck, man versus man main event for Halloween Havoc. The best part of this, actually the best part may have been the graphics where Hogan and Giant morphed into their trucks. That was pretty great too. But I also really enjoyed the scary Dracula music.
I was going to say the music was amazing.
Yes. Kurosawa versus Craig Pittman. I may have been alone. I love this match.
You are not.
This is a great, great mean guy match. This is two big, scary dudes who both decided, I'm going to take that dude over there. I'm going to take his arm off and beat him with it. And that was their goal. And they took turns trying to tear each other's arms off. And the other great thing about this, and this is a huge problem with the current product, every guy on the current roster does 95% the exact same stuff. This one, Pittman's out there doing the only guy other guy I've ever seen do this is Davey Boy Smith used to do it with Bret Hart a lot, where you grab his arm and try to lift him and hyperextend it.
Yes.
Yeah. Pittman's doing that just over and over again because he wants to work this guy's arm over. And sometimes he just kind of slam him back down like Davey Boy would do. And sometimes he's throwing back over his shoulder almost like a backdrop. Meanwhile, Kurosawa's throwing out all these kicks and judo throws. Stuff no one does anymore. And it wasn't like it was, these are not super complicated moves. There's nothing there that these guys did that I couldn't do after a day of training. But it's just different. It was different, and that made me happy.
It was two kind of green guys. It was Manabu Nakanishi.
Yes.
Two kind of green guys who just were like, they were both great amateurs. And they just went out there and they just had a crazy match together.
Just threw each other around.
They just toss each other all over the place. Pittman took a Northern Lights suplex on the cement outside.
Yeah.
Backdrop. The funny thing about this show was like, it was a new era, but there were still a couple of things from the old era that they kept referencing. Like a backdrop over the top was supposed to be a DQ, but apparently neither of these guys remembered, and so they just, announced it was accidental, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And then later they're talking about, Nick Bockwinkel as a commissioner. It's like,
Yes.
Nick Bockwinkel? He may still be the commissioner today for all I know. It was just wacky.
So eventually, sorry, Craig, go ahead.
I was going to say when Kurosawa pulled back the mats, I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a handheld microphone under the mats next to the ring. I just thought that was...
Yes.
Well, I just thought it was there to pick up the sound of
Probably was.
Pittman splatting on the floor.
Probably was.
And a Mongo saying, he splatted like grandma falling out of a wheelchair.
That's right. Yes, he did say that.
Apparently she got out of the bathroom from last week.
Yes. Fell out of her wheelchair.
And fell out of her wheelchair this week.
Why are all of Mongo's metaphors grandma related?
Dude, I don't understand anything Mongo's saying. He's just a crazy man.
Yeah.
And a terrible commentator.
So Kurosawa hit a bridging German suplex, and the only negative in this match is, of course, Nick Patrick, who screwed up the count. He counted one exactly as he hit the mat, so no one realized it was a 3 count. And so the finish was totally flat, but the match ruled. That was awesome. Gene Okerlund interviewed Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman in all their mid-90s glory. Tight jeans, primary color button-up shirts, and fanny packs.
Yeah, it was a button-up polo shirt with the sleeves cut out, tucked in,
Yes.
and a fanny pack.
It may have been acid wash, too. I'm not sure.
The pants were.
Yeah. So Pillman explains that they had the right to bear arms, the right to assemble, and the right to hospitalize anyone who got in their path. I'm not sure which amendment that is. But
By the way, this is the 4th Nitro we've watched. That's the same Brian Pillman that wrestled Liger 4 weeks earlier.
that's true.
And completely different look on him.
That is true.
He was starting his crazy phase.
Yes. Which continued for the rest of his life. Arn said the better man had won a fall brawl, by which he meant himself. And now, after years of pissing people off, Flair couldn't find a partner because Flair had spent years pissing everyone off with Arn to back him up. And then he had pissed Arn off, and now he was all alone, and they laughed at him.
That was a great promo
So
by Arn.
simple.
It was great, and it was short.
Yeah, they made their point and they left. And the storyline is so simple and easy to follow. I understand the motivations of everyone involved, even Gene. They replayed the angle where Kevin Sullivan attacked Randy Savage on the beach.
I just loved it the second time even more.
I did too.
Like all the girls are just like standing there. They don't even run away.
No,
they just stand and watch.
Not even standing there. It was a little hard to tell because they were in the background of ways, but they were not even trying to hide their laughter.
And Sullivan in his gear was like
Sullivan in his gear
twice
on the
as
beach.
funny the second time.
Yes.
Like you put on your patent leather boots to go to the beach?
I believe Flair did too.
I guess he really doesn't like sand in his sandals.
Yeah. So we had Sullivan versus Randy Savage. Zodiac came out there, which seemed to confuse Sullivan, but then he was interfering a lot. So it was basically Savage fighting off two men, and eventually he dragged Zodiac into the ring, threw the ref down for the DQ. He slammed Sullivan on top of Zodiac and went to drop an elbow, but Sullivan moved, so only Zodiac got elbowed. Then he went to murder Sullivan, but out came the Giant.
I think Zodiac got hurt on the elbow, if I recall correctly.
Oh, that's too bad. That's
wow.
Listen, no, hang on. I apologize. That sounded harsher than I meant it. I sincerely mean it's too bad that Ed Leslie was injured on his elbow. That is not good news.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, Giant came out and he hit Randy Savage with an amazing chokeslam. He lifted him high into the air, held him there for a while, and then jumped up and fell down to his own belly. This looked like a chokeslam that would plant a guy through the ring. A bunch of geeks ran out to attack him. Two things. When I say geeks, one of them was identified as Mark Starr.
Yes. Classic WCW jobber.
Yes. He failed to stop the Giant. But the other thing is that each time a geek came out, the fans went nuts.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was someone else to save poor Randy. Anyone help him. They were all so happy. I miss the 90s.
I loved that the only heroes are the jobbers.
Well, that too.
And except for Luger eventually ran out. But
well, and then... So, yes, Mark Starr and Alex Wright appeared. He failed. And then Luger comes out. Quick aside. And
the bell?
No.
No.
The notorious Bash at the Beach formation of the NWO. When Hulk Hogan comes out and Bobby Heenan screams, whose side is he on? And a lot of people were very, very angry at this because they thought it spoiled the turn. Where Luger comes out and Bobby Heenan's first question is, whose side is he on?
That's right.
So apparently Bobby Heenan didn't trust anyone.
Well, I don't think Bobby ever knew what was going on because during this match, he was talking about next week's match like it was loser leaves town. Mm-hmm. And really, it was only Luger's career on the line, so he'd screwed that up completely.
I see.
And this whoever was ringing the bell, oh my God. I mean, there was a part of me that was like, it's kind of neat because the bell ringing repeatedly for 5 straight minutes does make it seem like, an air raid is going on or something. But, oh, my God, after a while, it was just like, stop. I'm going to ring your bell. Stop ringing that bell.
So Luger got into the ring, and then rather than turn to face the Giant, he stood over Savage in what looked like a very menacing manner, but Giant didn't give him a chance to do anything. He attacked Luger from behind and chokeslammed him. This enraged Sullivan, and he dragged the Giant to the back. Very confusing.
When Savage finally threw the ref down, something I noticed, when a wrestler throws a ref down nowadays,
they're killed.
There's a giant sigh throughout the arena.
Yeah.
When Savage threw the ref down, they popped like crazy.
Well,
they were losing their minds because Savage was losing his.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore.
There's a lot of things they don't do anymore. They've been beaten down. You know what I was excited by was they showed a graphic for what was coming up next, which was Luger versus a giant hog.
Yeah. I was confused.
May had this headgear that apparently he only wore in graphics and promos.
Which really saddened me. I wish he'd come out in it.
This mask.
He was a giant pig.
With long hair.
Yeah. Like a warthog.
I don't know what that was supposed to be.
It was awesome is what it was.
It made an impression. So... After the break, everyone is gone except Luger, who is still down and selling, and so Meng runs out to attack him and start their scheduled main event match. So Lex Luger wrestled Meng. For those of you who think we are being too easy in the show, rose-tinted glasses, I believe someone said.
No.
Let me tell you something. This match blew.
You know what's funny is Meng actually was not bad at all, but Luger was so horrible in this match. His bumps were just absolutely horrendous, except when Meng just decided he was going to force him to take a bump.
Yes.
Like he gave him this tilt-a-whirl and it's just insane. And then, Meng's doing all these chin locks, at which point he would make some
pinches.
He'd make wacky noise. He'd be like, husha, husha, as he's doing these chin locks. Mm-hmm. That was great.
My favorite was
that was great, Brian says.
Yeah, that was a highlight of this match.
It was.
my
When he made
favorite
all these
one
noises.
when as Luger whips him across the ring. Luger runs at him to clothesline him, but it's close to the finish. So Luger's not sure if Ming has his gimmick out. So he throws a clothesline at Ming, and then Luger takes the bump.
And Luger's bumps, he would like bend his legs and do a back arch, and then he'd put his hands on the ground, and then he would bump.
Bumping is the wrong term.
They were so
a bump is a
horrible.
violent collision. He would lie down.
Oh, yeah. My God, this was terrible.
So the finish is, as Craig hinted, Luger charged into the corner. Actually, he was beating Meng up, and the ref pulled him off, as refs are supposed to do, not disqualify a guy for kicking too much ass. And as the ref's back was turned, Meng pulled out a gimmick, and he struck Luger in the throat and then pinned him. Okay, a couple things. First of all, when this occurred, I wrote, Meng beat Luger with a clean finish. This is what wrestling has come to now. He hit him with a weapon. Mm-hmm. And in my mind is so warped now, this came off as a fair and legitimate win.
Well, when you're Ming, I guess it is.
But it was one man outsmarting and outmaneuvering another one. He also cheated, but there was no 3,000 guys running in the ring. There was no two different refs. There was no restart. There was no distraction finish. One guy outsmarted his opponent and took advantage of the rules and stooped to underhanded tactics and defeated his foe. This came off clean. Second of all, Lex Luger's build for his big career-threatening match next week is a loss to Ming.
Well, you know, when I was thinking about this, it was like, okay, it's Luger versus Savage, and Luger's career is on the line. Mm-hmm. So you know he's going to win. And so the way they did this here was they had Savage single-handedly beat up two men all by himself, and then in Luger's match, he got beaten up, and then he got hit with a weapon, and he got pinned. So it was just your typical, it's actually very modern. It's like, okay, Luger's beating Savage, so we'll give Savage a big to-do over two guys, and then Luger, you do a job here, but you beat Savage next week. It was one of those things.
I see.
But yes, it certainly did not build interest in that match.
Yeah. So that was Nitro. It's still my favorite show to watch.
You know, it was funny because Heenan also mentioned Luger leaving the WWF, and he said the WWF by name.
Actually, they bleeped out the F part.
Well, they did, but it was still pretty revolutionary in 95 to mention the name of the other company. But yeah, Luger Savage next week, and it should be good. I'm very excited for that.
They bleeped out the F and put the word ferret in there. So.
Is that what they did?
Yeah.
How about that?